So now this is being recorded. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to this training session about assessment design in the age of AI. So I'm happy to welcome you here for this exciting discussion because we've all, I think, this one way or another discussed the issues and the dilemmas and all kinds of considerations we have to take into account once getting into the new AI reality. Okay, this has become a reality, whether we like it or not. Some of us are excited the new tools and are using them already, embracing them. Some of us are a little bit apprehensive, and we are trying to see what's going to happen next. But whether we like it or not, whether we already use this or not, these tools, our students are using them and will be using them, and we have to think about the future, what the life is going to be like in 5 years, in 10 years, right? The students that we are training will be somewhere in the, in their professions in 5-10 year time, and it's going to be completely different, I think, from what we have experienced. So I'm very happy to see some of my colleagues from the Western Galilee College, from the Technion, we have some other colleges from Israel, we have Hadassah Academic College, Sapir, Daniel, you're from Azrieli, right? Azrieli College. And we have Eric from Norway. Also, Professor Kostas is going to join us at some point, I believe. I'll just text him now. He's from Greece. So we will shortly begin. Our training today will be divided in 2 parts. We will have a break. I know it sounds very long. It is long, but it's not going to be us lecturing mostly, hopefully. We love to speak, both me and Lana. You will meet Lana in a moment. So we hope to actually raise a very fruitful and interesting discussion and come up with or at least instill some kind of individual thinking about assessment, your own perception, your own kind of conclusions and takeaways, and then hopefully implementation or in your own courses, in your own teaching contexts. Now, to add one more thing, many of us here are involved in actual teaching of the English courses. So we teach academic English, and some of the teachers here, I think it's half and half, and half of the audience here are not language teachers. They don't teach English, but they teach discipline, EMI, English as a medium of instruction. So the whole issue of assessment actually is not only ours here, when we think about English teaching or EMI teaching, right? It's actually really global. And the idea of AI entering the education system throughout the globe, regardless of the age, we're here from higher education, but I think it enters the school, the K-12 system as well. And native speakers are discussing this 24/7, like the issues related to AI and assessment currently are just so, I find them fascinating, very interesting, and we would like to share some of our ideas here. So so that some of us will be applying the ideas, the insights into the language teaching context. Some of us will be taking the conclusion into the context of our disciplinary teaching field. It's just the training is in English, right? We have some international audience here, but if anyone needs to tell something in Hebrew and you need some kind of mediation, go for it. We have enough Hebrew speakers here, but I mean, if it's okay, I hope it's going to be convenient to all that we will speak in English, okay, in this setting. So I think I'll just make sure. Sonia, can you text Kostas and see if he's joining us, because he was going to join. He actually signed up for this training too, and I just wanted to make sure that he's not. You see, I'm thinking about everyone who actually signed up. Wonderful. So I would like to now invite Lana to also introduce herself briefly. She's not from Israel. She's from Montenegro, right? Am I right? Yes. Okay. So I met Lana, I think, about a year ago, something like that. Once the whole AI boom has, excited me back then. I came across Lana's blog on the internet about her use of different AI tools in her teaching. She's also a teacher trainer. She consults ministries of education. She works with teachers across different fields, including EMI teachers, English teachers, and she's a real expert in everything AI related. I really find her knowledge wow. Like I know that we're so proud to have you here, and I'm really honored. So thank you so much for agreeing to join this webinar, this training. So I see that some people are still joining. So we are going to actually have this in an open format. So as Lana is presenting her ideas, her input, she's also open for you to, stop her, ask any questions. We'll have it in a discussion mode. So feel free to interrupt. Let me see that the chat is open and it's working. I believe it is yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, everyone can post in the chat if you have any questions, and I will try to moderate this as we go. So Lana's part is going to be for the first an hour and a half, up to 2 hours. Then we'll have a short break. And then we will move on to my part, where I will also present some ideas of how assessment can be considered in higher education setting, with different kind of questions we need to ask ourselves. And we will ask ourselves a lot of questions. It's about us figuring out what we're going to do with this new reality, and maybe also answering some of these questions as we go. This is going to be on a practical, more practical when we get to the rest of the day. So actual really important questions to consider. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope you will all enjoy. So let's begin with Lana's input. You can now share your screen. I think everything should be working.
Okay. Thank you so much for this lovely introduction, Elena. Now I'll share my screen.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
And share. Okay. Okay. I can't see the chat, but it's okay. So you will be following the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Or else, if somebody has any question or anything, feel free to interrupt me. I will stop and then we could have a lovely discussion. We don't have really many people. So at the moment, we can have a really nice and fruitful discussion, I hope. Mm-hmm. Okay, is everything all right? Is everything working?
Yes, perfect. Yes, we can see your slide. Yeah. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So today I will be talking about assessment design in the age of AI. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this virtual gathering today. And you know that there is not really a ton of research available at the moment about the impact of AI on assessment or on teaching and learning in general. There is much speculation about the potential impact that AI may have, but actual impact has not been measured yet. So today I will be sharing from my own experience, my understanding of the potential of this technology, and I will also share some use cases that I have implemented in my practice, and probably you will find it useful for you. Now, a few words about me. I'm a teacher trainer, and education consultant. I've worked with teachers at different levels, from primary and secondary school to university. My interest in EdTech and AI developed some 5 years ago when I saw the potential of technology supporting language learning and learners. And I started thinking of transitioning to instructional design at the same time, so technology was a really nice component to focus on. I spent some 17 years in higher ed, and during my PhD research, I focused on creating simulations that provide students with real-world-like learning environments. So that was the key interest of mine, and I think that AI nicely contributes to this research area. the goal was to prepare my students for the situations they would face as future professionals. I like to see myself as a bit of an AI explorer, trainer, and developer all rolled into one. And right now, I'm on a mission to figure out the best ways to bring AI into classrooms, making learning and teaching even better, and unlocking possibilities we never thought possible. I also have my blog called ELTcation, where I share my thoughts and ideas with fellow teachers. Now you can see some contact information, some channels that I have. Feel free to follow me, feel free to join. Just drop by to ask any question. I'm always available online. So before we actually start, I would really like to know where you are at the moment in terms of AI use, what your current thinking is now. Are you actually integrating Gen AI in your classroom practices? So that's yes. Or are you thinking about using some of it, but with some limitation? You're still not really sure whether it has its place in the classroom or not. You are probably not really ready to use it. Or that's an exact no, blunt no, you do not want your students to be using AI because you think that's probably, as some say, necessary evil, but it doesn't have any place in the classroom, as our education should be humanistic. So what is your answer? Where are you? Have you said yes to the dress?
Okay, let's discuss this in the chat. So is it a yes, a maybe, or some no's here? I think people who
Just to see the mood.
So it is yes, 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 yes for now. Okay.
Super.
Not even one maybe. You see, like people, there is a consensus, but we have a longer answer. I occasionally use it, but still at the beginning. I'm going to try to use it in the class later on this semester for the first time. Fingers crossed.
Wow.
It goes well. Okay. And some more yeses. We have also a comment that it's going to be a long process, right? Yes, but it's going to be long, but everyone is positive, affirmative.
Oh, super. So my today's presentation focuses on 3 questions. And I would say currently, and I agree with that previous answer, that it's going to be a long process. We have lots of questions. We have lots of questions whether it will have any impact, whether it will have the impact we want it to have. What are the negative implications for the classroom practice if we introduce AI, how it should be introduced? So there are tons of questions speculated. Yet, today, I would say I am not ready to give ready-made solutions, and I'm not going to do it. I will not be saying that that's the solution you should follow, and then your practice will be top-notch. I will probably try to explore 3 essential questions with you. The first one is, what is AI? Here, I'll focus mainly on key features and associated risks and challenges. This understanding is important as these are factors that inform our decision-making in terms of assessment design. Why should, so that's, I won't be too technical. I won't give like a long introduction of what AI is, yet we'll focus on something that needs to be factored in when we think about introducing AI in assessment design. And the next question will be why? Why should AI be factored in and how it can benefit assessment design and practices? We'll explore some benefits that it might have and try to work out some possible strategies to rethink and reframe or redesign and design new assessments with the help of AI. And finally, the question is how should it be introduced, taking into account its changes, risks, and challenges that we'll discuss in the first part. And in this part, I'll focus mainly on practice, particular use cases, and associated prompts that you may find helpful in your practice. So what, why, and how. In my talk, I'll zoom in on generative AI or Gen AI. As we know, AI has been around for far longer than Gen AI. We used AI for assessment 5 years ago, 10 years ago, some platforms used AI. Yet Gen AI has really accelerated the development of some of these different AI-supported assessment methods. So the focus will be on Gen AI. Now, what exactly is Gen AI? As you know, it's a branch of artificial intelligence that uses a ton of data and super smart computers to make all sort of original stuff like writing, sound, code, pictures, and even videos. Gen AI can predict and generate content that's impressively human-like. It comes in 4 main types, each with its own unique capabilities. First, there's text-to-text, which involves large language models, and that's, again, my main focus. I'll be focusing as a linguist, as a teacher of language, as a language teacher, I'll be focusing on large language models mainly. These are models like GPT-4, the model which drives ChatGPT, for example, or Lambda by Google, or Claude 2, etc. Nowadays, there are lots of models available. These models can understand and generate text, making them great for writing assistants, chatbots, and more. Next, there's text-to-image software powered by AI, where AI can turn written descriptions into images or pictures, helping with creative design and visual content creation. Then there's text-to-voice, which converts written words into spoken audio, handy for virtual assistants and accessibility tools. By the way, I have my, our joint YouTube channel, ELT Creatives, where Miguel Migues from On the Same Page ELT and I share some instructional videos for teachers. Actually, the voices there are artificial. There is only one video with real voices. Everything else has been cloned and has been recorded using AI, which is pretty interesting because people usually take it as you speak different accents all the time. Sometimes it's a bit Australian, sometimes it's a bit British. Which accent is yours? And I say it depends on the model. Sometimes it likes me to sound more British. Sometimes it's more Australian. Then there's text to video, which transforms text into video content, simplifying video production and storytelling. And these days, there is a trend of blending them all together and creating new models that can generate multimodal output. This means interacting with users through text, sound, images, and videos. And it's pretty fascinating to see how everything comes together. So nowadays, they are developing hybrid models that actually can generate in one model everything, images and sound. So you can chat, interact with the model using text, using images, using your voice, showing your environment, which is important for us to know, given the topic of our today's conversation, which is assessment. And then I will show this in a second, why we need to be aware of that. As you know, Gen AI comes with certain risks. I will not be diving deep into risks, just outline the main ones that are associated with large language models and important for the topic of our conversation today. The first risk is associated with data or the stuff the model learns from. And you've probably heard a lot, if you are in this AI field, you've probably heard a lot about data risks. It's a common topic which is raised probably in every single webinar or seminar or presentation about AI. So what we know is that the first models like GPT-2 and then GPT 3.5, Tuba and GPT-4 were all trained on online data. So everything that is available online. If GPT 3.5 was trained on the outdated data, GPT-4 is now able to scrape the internet and it learns from the data in real-time mode. And what it means for us, here's the catch. You probably know how easy it is to launch a website nowadays. Have you ever tried to launch a website? It takes 5 minutes, probably even shorter. Nowadays, there are platforms AI powered, and you can start your website in about 2 seconds. You get a nice interface, and you can populate your website with any type of data you want, which means that whenever you upload some data to the model, and you don't filter it, it gets all kind of information. So everything which is available online. So sometimes these models pick up weird stuff and wrong ideas from all that information. And you've probably witnessed that. Sometimes they start giving really interesting things because, again, the information was not filtered. And that's point one that we should take a note of, because if we want to use the smart computer models the right way, we've got to remember that they have inconsistencies and biases present in the data, so initially. And it's not the model we should be blaming for that, but the data. So in many cases, it makes sense customizing models and feeding them with the data, often called reference data, you would like them to use. And that's especially relevant for assessment purposes. So if you decide to use a large language model for assessment purposes, make sure that you have some reference data. Do not rely just on any training data that was fed into the computer. Some risks stem from the very nature of large language models. They are initially designed to predict the next word in a sequence of text. And this predictive nature can sometimes lead to inconsistencies in the model's output. And this explains why the model will never generate exactly the same content based on the same prompt, especially if it's set in a creative mode. That is, if you set a higher temperature for the model, or it may unintentionally stitch the wrong pieces together. That also happens. When there is a lack of data in your prompt, when your prompt is unclear or vague, something like give me 5 strategies to change assessment, then the model may start producing some imaginative responses, generating some incorrect answers, because the model will never say, I have no information, I have no data, I don't know the answer. It always knows the answer because it was designed to produce answers. So the answer will always be given. The question is whether the answer will be viable, will be valid or not. So with this comes one aspect of AI that we need to be crystal clear about. Limited control. Currently, humans can manage the input of that we feed into the model, but when it comes to AI's output, no one has complete control. I've developed several generators, task generators. I've played around with various apps powered by AI, but I can say that achieving 100% consistency when the model gives absolutely consistent results is not really possible at this very moment because we have no full control. So you can introduce certain policies for the model, but you cannot fully control. And that's something that we should remember, especially in terms of when we think about the implications of AI for education and classroom practices and assessment in particular. Okay. Any questions so far? No? No. All right. But these risks, if we think about them, emphasize the importance of expertise. This limited control is actually magnifying who you are as a teacher and what level of expertise you have. Using AI effectively relies heavily on having the right expertise. AI-generated content may be good or bad or ugly, may contain bias, may be wronger than wrong, but it all depends on the human feeding the input to the model. To achieve quality results, 2 essential components are required. The first one is a clear understanding of what you aim to achieve. So if you have a clear outline of what your aim is, and B, you have the ability to evaluate whether you've achieved it, you can use AI efficiently. If a teacher lacks experience in materials writing, enrolling in a course on using AI to create materials will not miraculously transform the teacher into a skilled materials writer. Similarly, if a teacher hasn't previously developed their own courses or curricula, they won't suddenly produce a top-notch course or curriculum, whether AI is involved or not. In essence, our expertise is the foundation that will be put into a prompt that guides the model to get the result we want. So that's, again, that's basically my principle I follow, and I thought that I should probably specify it again and again. No miracles here. Expertise, teacher's expertise comes first. One important principle of machine learning is reinforcement learning with human feedback, or ask the human if it's good. So all machines of the kind, or models of the kind, function based on the principle, ask the human if it's right, or ask the human if it's good. In this method, a model learns by interacting with an environment and receiving feedback from humans to improve its performance. You will probably experience that with ChatGPT. Whenever you ask it to regenerate the output, you're asked to rate the output. So if a human asks to regenerate the output, that means that something is not all right there. The human would like to get something else. And then after the model has regenerated the output, there would be a question, rate the output. Rate the output. That is done for the purpose of machine learning, to make sure that the model knows or gets the idea what a human wants when asking this or that question. So that's how it learns. And this point is extremely important because it places the responsibility for the quality of the output generated on the user or us in our case, relying on our subject matter expertise and knowledge. Okay, oops. All right. And one more important introductory point that I would like to make is the following. What we need to understand is that Gen AI will reinforce whatever system we have. AI at times can seem almost magical, leading people to believe that the tool itself is the key. This perception has opened the door for countless entrepreneurs who think that they can create educational technology simply because they are familiar with the field, which is often driven by the notion, I've been a student, so I know how it works. And that's why that's what we discussed with Elena some 10 minutes before. There are lots of applications available. Some are workable, some are effective, some are not. But again, it depends on who behind the technology is, who has developed that app and what level of expertise they have. And this basically all the abundance of platforms emerging that we see nowadays, all claiming to save our time, basically by and large, mimic what we've been doing in education for years. The true quality and impact of the educational content depend not on the existence of technology, but on the expertise and intention behind the technology. And the important point that I again would like to stress is that AI is not a substitute for being an expert. ChatGPT can do a good job at certain tasks when prompted by an expert with knowledge of its limitations. Now, that was just a brief introduction to AI, what I understand by Gen AI and the principles that guide me in my research. I don't know if you have already experimented with using AI for assessment. If you have, it might be worth sharing some of the ideas in the chat probably. And today I'll show a few use cases and applications that I use to generate assessment tasks and carry out and support assessment both of learning and for learning. So today I will not be distinguishing between summative, formative assessment. I will take that in general. So I will explore various approaches available, yet I will bear in mind both assessment of learning and assessment for learning. Okay.
Yeah, and everyone, please think about your own examples. Maybe if you can write in the chat, go ahead. If not, just keep them. We will have a little round of sharing comments, maybe after Lana presents her cases.
Okay. Just to make sure you don't get tired of my talking. Now, before we dive into the how, let's explore why we actually need to rethink our assessment practices, whether we actually need to do it, whether we want it or not in view of Gen AI, and how it can potentially change the game for assessments, especially in the context of ELT, EMI, and CLIL. So first, I don't know whether it's good news or bad news. Gen AI can do a lot of what we currently assess, if not everything. So if you take any assignment and you get it through Gen AI, then you will see some magic. It's capable to tackle it really easy. And this creates an opportunity for cheating and compromises the integrity of assessments. And that's why lots of educators nowadays are worried that now cheating will be large scale. So you've probably heard this debate about cheating, and you've probably talked about that as well, haven't you?
Well, we're here to talk about it. I think I will be talking about it in the second part. I will actually.
So I mean, we always had cheating. We always had cheating. Let's be clear on that. Cheating was always in place, right? But nowadays it's like massive cheating. It's so accessible. Anybody can do that. If before students could resort to the help of their friends or parents or Google or some helpers online, nowadays you just press the button. And you get ready-made solutions. You don't have to give answer keys to your students. It's enough to work with ChatGPT. They will get all the answers they need in a second. So the initial step in the inventory process that I recommend is to run your assessments with ChatGPT and observe how it performs with them. So just for you to see how your assessments, how ChatGPT copes with your assessments. Though the outcome is pretty obvious, I would say, I don't need a crystal ball to predict that it will not have any trouble with standardized tests given its capabilities. All the methods all the methods to safeguard the integrity of assessments and restrict cheating do not work anymore. They have just stopped working. Any home-based or computer-based assessment which is carried out remotely is now vulnerable. For instance, measures like disabling copy-paste functionality and imposing time restrictions to prevent the use of search engines for finding correct answers are no longer effective. With the ChatGPT voice chat app now available to all users, including free users, so anyone can download their free app, and the AI's capability to read and interpret images, meaning you just show to ChatGPT the screen, and the ChatGPT will get the information from the screen. Cheating can be accomplished effortlessly in a blink. Let's take the FSAT test, which I don't know if you've heard about it. I was in between, like whether to take British Council test or FSAT. I chose FSAT, which provides certification to test takers. So if you take it online, then you will be certified as a competent user of English, and then you will be given a certain level, so you will get an official certificate. The measures that they use are as follows. That's a digital test, which means you cannot copy-paste it. Then there is a time limit. You see that you have only 2 minutes for a particular test item. So you won't have, technically, you won't have time to go and Google and try and find the right answer. Sometimes there are some other measures introduced, like you can't open, if that's, for example, on the premises of an institution, if the computer-based test is carried out on the premises of the institution, you won't be able to open Windows, right, in your computer. So there will be only one window available. Now let us take this test and see how that works. So at the moment, I'm opening my ChatGPT assistant.
Yeah, I love it too, but I actually have never tried, like, just sharing with the audience, with everyone. I've tried a lot of the audio feature of the ChatGPT and I enjoyed it a lot. Okay.
Okay, so let's check.
But
Choose the word.
I haven't tried showing the picture. Like I knew that there was a picture thing, but now, Lana, what you're saying is that the students can show a screen to on their phone, and the app will interact with the content. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So now let us do the following. I will not show the picture at the moment because I have a free version. I don't have ChatGPT 4. I mean GPT-4 model. I'm not a pro user. I use other platforms. But what I will do right now is the following. Okay. Choose the word that best completes each sentence.
If you need any help or have questions about showing the picture, feel free to ask.
All right. Choose the word that best completes the sentence. Kang thought the spicy tofu dish was gap, tasty, so he ordered it again. Options: mainly, fairly, especially, slightly.
Kang thought the spicy tofu dish was especially tasty, so he ordered it again.
That's it. It was especially. Did you hear the response?
No.
Was it possible to hear the response? By
Yeah,
this?
we heard it.
Yes, but it was very faint.
Okay, so anyway, the immediate answer is cancel. The spicy tofu dish was especially tasty. If you ask for some details, it will give you some details, but it is done like, that's a matter of seconds. So you don't need that time limit. It means that while reading, you read out, the assistant helps you, you do the test, bingo.
My ChatGPT said that it's fairly or especially, since both can be used to describe the degree to which Ken found the dish tasty.
So you use this chat assistant, right?
Yeah, I used ChatGPT 4. I just took the picture and sent it. That's it, and it gave me it. It put it in words, and it said the most appropriate word to complete the sentence would be fairly or especially, since both can be used to describe the degree to which Ken found the dish tasty.
All right. So basically, for free users, it gives just like one option, right? It gives a more extended answer, but then again, ask for the most common answer. I need the right answer. So just one answer, and it will probably give you the answer which is most typically used in the sentence, because it will try to get
something.
So based on what I've just seen, so does this, and I just want to make sure that I got it, that does the outdated versions are the outdated versions less accurate? Is that it, or it doesn't really matter?
It's not about less accurate. It's not just about accuracy. The more modern version is able to deal with the data which is current. In terms of linguistics, in terms of language tests, I don't think that it's of vital importance. The functionality probably is better of ChatGPT, which is powered by GPT-4 model. Turbo works, but the functionality is better, meaning that when we say the functionality is better, it means that the answers will be more extended and better fine-tuned. Because you
Okay.
know, behind every model, there is always a group of humans. So every
Yeah.
time a new model is introduced, there will be a group of trainers that will be going through outputs of the model again and again and again, trying to figure out which answer should be given, what a human expects, meaning that if an older version will give just one version, one option, the newer version will try to give some nuances of the answer.
Okay.
Like several words. Sometimes it may try to specify which word should be used in which context, etc. So I would say what I've noticed is that answers are usually more extended, more particular, more nuanced in a way, more detailed. So that's the only difference. But for our purposes, in terms of standardized assessments, standard tests that have been there for years, I would say it doesn't really make any like much difference unless you're a linguist doing your research.
All
Well,
right.
okay.
Yeah, after I asked what is the right answer, it gave me especially.
So, I mean, I got this answer immediately.
Mm.
So I'm
You,
also
with a
using
better model, you got some variation like, hey, you know what, because again, I think that it will probably get this Google statistics, right? Or corpus statistics, saying corpus data, saying like, well, there is this usage, that's the second word which might be used. I think that if you start drilling down, you will learn something interesting about the percentage of people or countries, or variations of English where this very particular word is more often used, etc. So that's about the quality of data. But in essence, I just wanted to demonstrate how fast it can be done.
Yeah,
Well,
it's very impressive. It's very
yeah,
impressive.
I have to add here because I also have ChatGPT-4,
Mhm.
and I was impressed by Pavel's example that he already took a picture and he got 2 answers as opposed to Svetlana's demonstrated just 1 correct answer. My ChatGPT-4 gave me 1 answer, but which is incorrect. It says that the right answer is fairly, as it indicates, Kang found the spicy tofu dish reasonably tasty, which is why he decided to order it again. And it's incorrect answer. And I said, are you sure is this the right answer? He says, yes, sure. So, and the options given where I read, like, I took a picture, it summarized the question. It said the options given are mainly, fairly, especially, and slightly, and it clearly produces the incorrect answer. And I have ChatGPT-4. So we just kind of live experience that, first of all, 3 people at the same time got 3 different answers, 1 correct, 1 received 2 answers, 2 options, and another person here is so excited about AI just got the wrong answer and confirmed this right answer is right, but it's wrong because I'm an expert. I know, like, so this is
actually,
so weird.
you know, Elena, that's a really good point because that actually supports the importance of expertise. And that supports the idea that if a person is not able to evaluate the output, then it's a very sometimes dangerous tool to use. It's not an expert, it's not a substitute of an expert. So we have to be very careful where we introduce it in the classroom, because we should be aware of this fact that sometimes, even in terms of feedback, no matter how well you programmed your app, which is supposed to give feedback to students, you have to monitor non-stop all the time the interaction of the robot or of the machine, right, with the student. Because if students are not able to evaluate the output, they may blindly believe ChatGPT, for example, or the language, any language model that drives your app, thinking that, that's the right answer because the model said so.
With
So
an explanation.
that's about supervision and control.
Yeah, so please remember my example. I pay $20 every month, assuming that I'm getting better answers than the free version. So when you talk to your students, warn them. I mean, they already pay. I know students who pay and they enjoy the app and everything. But they really have to be warned. Like they have to understand that even the explanation, which might sound logical and right, can be wrong, and you really have to be like with your eyes open. And yeah, thank you.
Okay. Right.
But actually, in this case, I agree that I would also, I could have picked fairly. I think the question itself is also a bit
Tricky
confusing.
question, yeah, maybe, but yeah, if it's only fair, then you have especially next to it, like you have this human choice where you think, okay, why would you order a dish again? Well, only when it's really nice, right? But if it's just fairly, like
Maybe he was very
You know,
hungry.
Elena, that's actually something interesting, since we are talking about assessment. There was one issue in our system, and AI has just shown light on it. And it is the following: whenever we deal with a standardized test, we assume that one answer is correct, right? The others are wrong. But there is always room for variation, because we deal with a language which is a living thing, and there is always this room for variation, that answer C may not be exactly correct, that somebody may think that, you know what, this very use should be chosen. And that's why I know that after each standardized test, at least in my institution, in the institutions I worked in, we always had some session when students could actually appeal, saying that, you know what, this answer is not correct. Not very often happening, but as if you have compiled tests, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes deciding on one particular answer which is correct is very tough, right? And especially if you deal with multiple choice tests, which is a usual scenario for tests that we give to students, right? Not open answers, but multiple choice. Multiple choice is challenging, and AI may show this challenge, may actually shine light on this challenge.
Lana, we have Samia who raised her hand. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I think that we should all remember that we are not only teaching students content and to get the right answers, but we, in addition to whatever discipline we're teaching, we are also cultivating critical thinking and encouraging our students to use their high order thinking skills in order not to take anything for granted, but to question, to ask the right questions, to evaluate and analyze the data they get. That, I think, that is our responsibility as educators.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. However, when we talk about assessment, and today we focus on assessment, especially summative assessment, right? That's the traditional paradigm, assessment paradigm. We focus on the rights and wrongs. So, but I do agree that when transitioning to new systems, we should make sure that this critical thinking component is introduced into the assessment as well. So the framework actually shows that in addition to content, we focus on critical thinking of students. Anyway, we go further. And the second thing that I wanted to mention is that there are no detection tools that do the job accurately. So claims of GPT detectors 99% accuracy are often taken at face value by a broader audience, which is misleading at best. There are many issues with AI detection by AI. For example, one recent study that examined TOEFL writing tests exposed a bias in GPT detectors against non-native English speakers. In the worksheet to this presentation, you will have a link, actually you will have links to all studies, surveys, data that I give in this presentation, so you will be able to study the data, because I think that will be interesting for you. But what they noticed is that over half of the non-native English writing samples were misclassified as AI generated. And it also showed that the use of more literary language was classified as more human. So they played with enhancement of word choice. They also played with prompts. So they got a native speaker sample, and they asked ChatGPT to write it, to simplify it. And then native speaker samples were all classified as AI produced. And they also did the same with non-native speaker sample. They asked ChatGPT to introduce literary language, to use literary language. And guess what? These samples were not AI generated. So the main idea here is that non-native speakers may be penalized for limited linguistic proficiency. So the content that non-native speakers produce may be classified as AI generated, though I've seen many cases when native speakers, bloggers, got their blog contents through ChatGPT and not ChatGPT, but GPT-0 something like that detector. And it classified their content as AI generated. And there was this, hey, I published that 10 years ago. There was no AI available. That's my article. However, it was classified as AI generated. So we may conclude that GPT detectors can be easily bypassed by better ChatGPT prompt design. Humans also struggle with AI generated content. They struggle to spot it. Recent studies show that on average, respondents are able to identify the AI generated content only about 55% of the time. And I've heard some claims by some teachers saying that I can easily identify whether an essay was written by AI or not. And I say to that one thing, that means that your students are not really good at prompt writing. So you will catch those who are not really good at prompt writing. Those who are good at prompt writing will never be caught. So that's something that we need to bear in mind as well. No detectors work. And with that in mind, we have to be strategic. We need this knowledge that AI can cope with our tests and assessments, and that there are no detectors working. We need this knowledge to build in a little bit of guidance and some guardrails around what our students are doing, to give them a signal, hey, I'm not in the dark about what's available. However, tackling the problem of exam cheating with AI should not be the primary focus when we talk about assessment. That means, as we've already discussed, Gen AI will reinforce whatever system we have. That means that if we persist with high stakes, standardized testing and essay-based examination, we will see Gen AI which supports those systems. For example, we will see personalized learning chatbots, but at the same time, we will see lots of AI-powered essay helpers online flooding the market. And probably we are seeing them at this very moment, right? Whenever you open any platform, lots of essay helpers. Developers will build the tools that the system requires and not necessarily the ones that will improve the system. Like what we've just seen, there is no way to detect Gen AI or prevent its use completely. And that means certain assessment types are now defunct. In fact, those assessment types have been, again, what we discussed, they have been problematic for much longer than Gen AI. It just shone a light on these issues. So it's down to us, the people in the system, not the technology, to bring about the change. Now I will give.
Lana, we have a question.
Yeah. Can I have a question just regarding this? Detecting the AI generated text. So what I did, I tried to put like the abstract that was generated by AI to authenticate. Technion has a subscription. It's to check for the plugin software. And if it generated with AI, so it shows 0% plagiarism. But if I write it or my students write it, then we have at least 10-15% plagiarism in it. And allowed is less than 20%. So can authenticate be used in this way? If it's 0%, it means that it's probably was generated with AI.
You know what? I would say it all depends. It all depends, because if we know that it can be bypassed by prompt design, so you can generate the content which will actually meet all the requirements of that detector.
Right.
So I would say it all depends. I mean, that's not about accurate results. Detectors really do not work, because every time one detector appears, there will be a set of measures invented, right? How to bypass this detector.
No, I see. But if it 5% or 10%, right, then it's you can ask ChatGPT to generate the text with this percent of plagiarism. But if it's 0, then it's unlikely that it was actually written by like by a human being. I mean, by a student, because usually students, I mean, if you read papers or I don't know, if it's a course, you lectures, so like I think unconsciously you use some phrases, some sentences that were introduced before. So of course you can tweak, like tune it to the certain percentage, but if it's 0, then it's like a red flag. I mean,
well, if it's 0, 0, maybe, but then what is again? I would say it's all in the area of maybe. I mean, we need really accurate results. So it all depends. Probably if 0, then it's not all right, but which level is all right? You know, that opens a room for lots of speculations, and probably that's not something that we need to do, to be focusing on. Because as I say, if we deal with assessment in particular, the main focus here should not be how to prevent cheating. We should start thinking how to introduce such assessment. I mean, that's apart from motivational part on behalf of students, because in essence, they are cheating themselves, right? But in addition to motivation, how to introduce such assessment, which is more continuous, which is adaptive, which is authentic. And these are the features that I wanted to outline describing AI-supported assessment. I will not be given, like, I will not stop for a long time on this, but I will just say that we know that our traditional assessment paradigm is discrete. So from time to time, we carry out certain assessment. AI may allow to provide assessment on a continuous basis. So it will be always on in the background. So the student's behavior will be always monitored, and that's what is possible. And that's a huge possibility because, again, AI is becoming more and more invisible. You know that nearly every app now has AI. Microsoft has introduced AI in everything, in Word, in PowerPoint. So it's everywhere. Whatever you open up right online in your computer, it's all AI powered, which means that AI can be monitoring the behavior of students. Something similar to Grammarly. Have you used this app?
Yeah.
If you have used that, then you know that it actually monitors everything you write online, right? And later on, once a week, it gives you a report. So you've made this and that mistake, your writing has improved, etc. So technically, our assessment system may benefit with AI being always there. Then AI may help make our assessment adaptive. Adapt assessment to the abilities of each and every student, something which was a dream some time ago, something which was considered like a fantastic scenario, yet was not really possible given the number of students groups that we have. And it can also increase authenticity of assessment, meaning that now you can employ, for example, a chatbot that will carry out an interview, that will assume a certain persona and will carry out an interview with the student. If, for example, you would like to test students' ability to sit a job interview. So the scenario will be more authentic, and this may help change our standard assessment paradigm. Now I would like to focus on certain features of AI, which I think are important for assessment. Okay, and the first one is multimodality. So that's something I have already mentioned. That's translation between various media formats. Multimodality is where the language model is able to translate, right, between media formats, which means reading images, describing to me what is going on in the image, text descriptions, producing images based on the text descriptions, etc. In terms of language teaching and learning, this presents an opportunity to create multimodal materials and assessment items that can maximize input and generate the most authentic environments. Now, I would like just to show to you one example of a video I made using AI to create multimodal input. I focused on elaborated input, which is better than simplified versions because it keeps the original content intact. You will see that in the subtitles what it looks like. And I think this could be especially useful for EMI and CLIL teachers, because it will give a chance not to simplify text, but to retain the original text and to provide needed explanations for students to ensure full understanding and exposure to real language, or real authentic language. Okay.
Constantly recycling the same grammatical patterns and limited set of vocabulary items results in impoverished input, which is counterproductive from an acquisition perspective. Acquisition potential is sacrificed for comprehensibility, thus excluding many new opportunities for learning. Comprehensibility is needed, but language acquisition from the input should not be sacrificed. Constantly recycling the same.
Okay, so that's how it works. And that, again, that means that now we can produce new assessment items, completely new multimodal, so combining video and images and text. And we can work with elaborated input, something which was pretty challenging before. Because let's face it, if you get any text and you do things manually, trying to introduce all explanations in the text, that will take too much time. With AI, it takes a second. In your worksheet to the presentation, I included the link to the post with all prompts that you will need to produce elaborated input and the tools that I used to make this video. Okay.
Constantly recycling the same grammatical patterns and...
Now, the next feature, which is another very interesting development that has been happening recently, is what is called embeddings or local models. And this is where you can get an open source language model and personalize it with private data that will not be shared with anyone else. So, for example, I can take an open source model and run it on my laptop, which I'm doing at the moment, and I can give that model access to all of my private data, emails, notes, presentations, data, and whatnot. And I can then have a personal conversation through natural language with a model that has access to all of my data. When it comes to assessment, this feature might help tackle a big ethical worry tied up to using AI to grade students' papers. I don't know how relevant it is for you, but I'm talking about the potential risk to data privacy and the importance of getting students okay or permission before sending their work to other apps, you know, following ethical guidelines. So that's about ethics. Can we submit our students' work into some third-party app or not? Because that's a huge privacy risk. So to avoid that, we can actually use a local model. For example, here's a platform that you can use to see how this works in action. It's called MeetJan. Again, you will have the link in your worksheet. And it provides open source models that you can download and run offline on your computer, so you do not need access to the internet to run these models. Which is, again, like sometimes people say, well, students cannot cheat, right? Because they will need internet connection. We can dampen the signal. And I say, well, they can always run a local model. You don't need internet connection anymore. That's the trick. So how it works is as follows. It's very simple. You just download the app.
Okay.
Then you can
what you just showed is like an app and software that we can just download on our computer, and whenever we are offline, we can still use the large language model kind of ChatGPT feature on the computer. Is that?
Yeah, these are open source models. These are open.
Are they
basically a portal that
are they good enough? Like the output will be quality in terms of the.
I found them absolutely working. I mean, I haven't tried them, the model for coding purposes or anything, but I would say an open source model. So how it works is as follows. Once you download it, it's a very small size app, just to give you access to GitHub. GitHub is the hub for developers. It just opens access. Mm-hmm. And then the next step will be choose the model that you would like. It offers about 20 open source models. These are non-paid models, and you see the blue signs, download, download, download. These are open source local models that work offline. Mm-hmm. The most powerful of them will probably be Mixtral, I would say. Somehow I've heard lots of positive reviews. I'm using it at the moment. I'm pretty much satisfied. I mean, for my linguistic purposes, it works absolutely all right. But you can also use it to get connected to ChatGPT, to ChatGPT's models, like GPT 3.5 Turbo or GPT-4. But for this purpose, you will need internet connection. You see the green use. You can use them via your computer, yet you will need online access first. And second, you will need an API, something that I will talk in a second. You will need an API and you will need to pay. I mean, that's already a paid thing. Mm-hmm. But again, again, this opportunity of not being connected online, I think is important, and using your data, your private data that you would not like to submit in any third-party application, again, opens up lots of possibilities, lots of possibilities. The interface is easy. After you have downloaded the model, it looks pretty much like ChatGPT. You will have the model choice, so you can choose the model. If you have installed several models, then you can switch between the models, trying to find the model that will give a better output. What else? You can save chats. So basically, it has the same basic functionality, because ChatGPT's interface is really simple. Okay. Have you got any questions here? No.
Please, question.
All right. One more thing that
I have a question.
Mhm.
It's a question based on a misunderstanding of what you said earlier, but I still want to ask the question. When you showed us how you could just take a photograph of the question in the exam and then the AI will produce the word fairly or whatever, I originally misunderstood and I thought you could point your camera at a picture and AI would describe the picture for you. Is there such a thing?
It depends on what you use. What I used with my telephone, I dictated to ChatGPT the options that I have. I didn't take a picture. I have a free app. I mean, an app for free users. It doesn't have this functionality. You have to pay to get access to this functionality, though I'm more than sure it's possible to find a model on GitHub that will have the same functionality, so I can run it locally. It's just, it was not my mission. But the idea was just to show how easy it can be done. Because again, we need to be aware of such things. We should not be focusing on them as the primary focus, like that's what we are focusing on. But we need to be aware of such things.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just give an example of why that caught my attention is because we are working with that kind of thing where the students have to speak to us for a few minutes about a topic or to describe a picture. And that's why my mind jumped to the wrong understanding, but it's extremely relevant for right now.
I believe, Vida, if you actually show, the app, the picture, and ask the app to describe the picture, it will do that. It just identified the text and read what the instruction was and tried to answer the exam test question. But if it was just kind of a descriptive, like a picture or something, a photograph that you want AI to actually describe in words, and this is one of your assessment tasks in one of your courses, I think it's a great idea to actually practice this task with AI and having some exemplary model of how you can describe a picture. So AI can do a lot of examples for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's for classroom practice, right? But in terms of assessment, that's about just awareness, though it opens tons of possibilities for the use in the classroom. Because that's what I said. GPT models or large language models can do basically all the tasks that we do with students in the classroom. And that's the saying. One more feature that I would like to briefly mention is APIs. Nowadays, it's very easy to create an app. Anyone can make an app. And this app this ease of app development, again, stresses the importance of teachers as responsible users. When creating AI app becomes a breeze, some developers might be in a hurry to make quick money by copying what's already out there without actually making learning better for people. And oftentimes, we do not know who is behind the technology. And I'm talking about lots of platforms available nowadays. It's really easy to make a platform. It takes 5 minutes, again, to get an API key, to make an interface and to connect to the large language model. So the developer, maybe anyone, maybe somebody with no education experience, non-principled use, that's somebody who will just try to mimic what we do in education. So we have to be aware of that. And because that poses a huge pedagogical risk for us. And that's one point. And one more point, which is important for for our topic, and that's assessment, is that if your institution, your school organization takes data privacy seriously and has very strict policies against third-party applications, which is often the case at the university level, in such cases, developing in-house apps is always an option. It's easy. You can always develop an in-house app that will have the functionality that you need, because all you need is basically a prompt and an API access. And this way you have more control over the data, and you can ensure that it stays within the bounds of your institution's privacy guidelines. So that's why I think that this very feature of AI is important. Okay. And one more thing, that's the last feature that I would like to mention today, though there are many more, is fine-tuning and roles. A fine-tuning is the ability to provide custom instructions and create personas. You can instruct a large language model to take on the persona of a tutor or a study guide, an examiner, or even Albert Einstein. So when a student interacts with a chatbot, it's as if they are engaging with a personal tutor, with the added benefit that this tutor is available to them 24/7. And this feature opens up a world of possibilities for authentic assessments. For example, when assessing, again, that's what I was saying, if you assess a job interview, you can always assign to your chatbot a certain persona of an employer who will be conducting a job interview with a student. All right. And that's like bringing authenticity to assessments in a whole new way. All right. So that was the second part, like a few features, and now I will show how they can be implemented in practical terms, because I think that you are also interested in the practical component. So how we can rethink, tweak, or design new assessments with AI, and I'll try to show you some use cases. And as I said, again, all the accompanying prompts you can find in the worksheet to this presentation. I will not be digging in details into the assessment redesign options, but you know that assessment, I mean, anything that we do in the system has this holistic nature, which means that we cannot just take decisions at the level of a particular assignment, of a particular assessment assignment. We start with the assessment framework. So probably your institution or you together with your teachers will need to decide on your approach to AI, what you will be doing, being aware of risks that it poses, right? Potential risks and potential implications for your practices. Probably the most comprehensive taxonomy of options by now has been offered by Australian educators. Again, you can check the link and you can see the description of each and every single measure in detail. I'll just enumerate them. We can resort to ignoring, pretend that it does not exist, like, okay, it's somewhere there, right? It does not concern us. We can ban it, and you probably remember the initial reaction of some countries to ChatGPT, which was banned by a number of countries initially. We can invigilate, we can resort to old classroom practices, right? In-class exams, strictly supervised, monitored by teachers, right? No apps, no computers, no telephones, etc. We can embrace it. We can introduce it, being mindful of equity issues, because some people may not have access to it. We can design around that. Trying to somehow build on limitations of large language models. And that's, again, what you probably see online nowadays, where lots of educators give advice how to make assessment assignments GPT resistant or AI resistant or AI proof. Well, building on limitations may make sense in the short-term period, but given the rate of development of large language models and AI, I would say these are futile measures. Because if today you introduce something, it will not work tomorrow for sure, because the model will be trained to address that limitation. And the last option is rethink. And that requires time and effort. That's rethinking your approach to exams, your approach to assessment, how it should be carried out, probably formulating new methods of assessment, thinking of how you can tweak the existing assessment methods, or designing absolutely new assessment methods in line with technology developments. I have also included one flowchart. I will not be, again, detailing that, but it can be convenient for you if you decide to somehow check your assessments at the level of individual assignments. So that's a very simple flowchart. It starts with, does the assignment address a course competency or essential learning objective? If yes, continue with it. If no, just discard it, invent or design a new assignment, which is pretty general. It has no AI mentioned, right? So that's basically, everything should be based on the learning outcomes that we would like to achieve. Two next questions are interesting. Can AI complete this assessment and pass? And then you have two options, yes or no, right? So if it cannot complete it and pass, carry on, nothing to change. If it can complete it, then you need to think whether AI, the use of AI, actually undermines learning of your students and hinder their ability to monitor and evaluate that. If you find it difficult to monitor the use of AI and you think that you will not cope with that because you don't have those monitoring mechanisms, then probably you may decide to invigilate it, so introduce strictly in-class environment for assessment. Or you may try to mitigate the risks. You may try to use some alternative methods of assessment that will probably lessen the effect of AI, something like peer collaboration or peer review, etc. So you may consider some techniques of the kind. And if it does not impact, then you may consider integrating AI into your assessment. So technically, you have to decide.
Can you go back to the previous slide just for 1 second? Can I comment on it? I think a comment just to bring everyone's attention. I think it's kind of a little bit confusing. I love this chart. It's really like a logical, especially computer science department at the Technion will appreciate this kind of pedagogical logic and chart. What I find deceiving here is the color of this last no thing, because it sounds like, okay, this is no drop it, right? This is no, I don't know, drop it. This is kind of a very revolutionary, I don't know if you can say very revolutionary, right? Because once using AI does not undermine students' learning and does not hinder their ability to whatever, to express them and to demonstrate their learning, if it can be integrated in our course design, in our curriculum, then it's a different color. It's not red anymore. It has to be like yellow and, you know, popping up. And this is something revolutionary here happening, right? Because once we can integrate the use of AI, like completely free use of AI in our assessment, it means that our assessment is already kind of, you know, AI, whatever, invigilation free. Like we don't have to monitor, we don't have to police the students. We just, you know, go ahead. This is going to be your life tomorrow, your professional career tomorrow, where you will be using AI. So just go ahead and use it for your higher education assessment, exam, whatever. So this needs to be a different color. But I really think, does anyone have anything that you want to add to this? I think it's interesting.
You know, Elena, that's a really good point. I have no clue what was the consideration behind this coloring. This flowchart, as I said, was developed by the University of Michigan. But again, whatever we develop at the moment, whichever flowchart decision tree, whichever framework of options, we have to bear in mind the changes are so fast, they are unprecedented, meaning that we try to cope with these changes. But the problem is we can never outrun the AI. We can't outdesign it, we can't outrun it. And that's what we should accept, meaning that probably in 5 months, this will be absolutely obsolete, or maybe even in a shorter period. So it all depends. But that's a good point. Yet it may somehow simplify the option of choices for you, because I think that before you start designing something new, right, you could probably take inventory of what you already have, the assessment methods and assessments and assessment assignments that you have, and you could take inventory of them through the prism of AI. So how it copes with them, what you can do, which measures you can introduce, right, and what you would like it to be like. So basically our choice will boil down to no AI use or AI use in between. We can talk about levels of AI use, whether it will be partial or it will be full AI use, but technically that's whether you will use AI in assessment or you will not use AI in assessment, resorting to the traditional paradigm. However, we should bear in mind that we should acknowledge that we cannot out-design AI, and it's not possible to create a fully AI-proof assessment. And that's something we should bear in mind.
Lana, can we give the floor to Daniel? He wants to say something.
What I'm thinking about is, you know, not only is AI then integrated or fully integrated to our assessment, that means it needs to be integrated into the teaching as well, as part of the teaching and part of the whole unit, not just the assessment.
That's absolutely true, because you know what I mean, what we are talking about right now, we took this narrow topic, assessment, right? Before I used to talk about teaching, learning, but we should understand that we function in a holistic system. We cannot just change assessment, integrating AI into assessment without changing learning outcomes, curricula that we have, content, right? Everything needs to be changed, because we cannot just tweak one area, right, hoping that everything else will function just the way it should be functioning or it has been functioning before. That's a holistic system. So if we change assessment, we need to change learning outcomes. And I would say, in light of AI, that's a huge conversation that is going to happen, because we need to talk about AI literacy. We need to talk about learning outcomes, what we are actually training our students to do, in light of the fact that AI can do many, many things, right? Should we start teaching them how to use language in relation to large language models, etc.? So that is this Pandora's box that educators are pretty much afraid of, because that shakes the whole system at all levels, including assessment. And that's a good point. Thank you. So let's take an essay as an example of the most traditional form of assessment. The factors we need to consider are that any take-home assessment would involve the use of AI, and we cannot reliably detect its use. So, and we cannot, and that's the second part, we cannot out-design Gen AI. So if before I would give an essay to my students as a home assignment, something like what makes the person happy or unhappy, now I cannot be sure that I can base their grade on this essay, because I cannot be sure whether it was written by them, it was generated by AI. But I have one sort of conclusion: if something can be completed by AI, then probably we should introduce AI for that assignment. But then we can modify the degree, the level, or the extent to which we will use AI. And I will probably skip this slide if you don't mind. You will be able to read it when I give you the slides. These are some measures, popular measures, that are used for no AI classes, no AI or AI-proof assignments. So what you can do, what you can introduce to prevent the use of AI in your classroom. But personally, I would say they are pretty much futile. They may work in combination. They may work for a short period of time. But again, nobody can guarantee that they will work 100%. And you can see some strategies. Again, you've probably heard about them. Some in-person or in-class examinations, so oral examinations when you talk to the student face-to-face. Then there is always this recommendation of contextualizing your assessment assignment, meaning that you do not give a general assignment like what makes a person happy or unhappy, or what makes a person happy, but you will include some points for reflection, like refer to the points that we discussed with you a week ago, or when discussing this and that book, etc. So there will be something specific that the model does not have information about. And that's building on limitations or data limitations of the large language model. But again, what I tried with ChatGPT, I actually asked ChatGPT to write an essay, and then I introduced some personal touches, like what makes a person happy. Then it gave me a pretty standard essay. Then I asked it, okay, now introduce the following. last week I thought I was happy because of, and then I just briefly described my personal experience. Include that into the essay. In 30 seconds, it produced a highly personalized essay with my reflections, my opinions. So again, it does not work 100%, yet you may try and experiment with these measures. What I would like to show to you is the use of AI, because I think that you're also interested in that, right? Not how to prevent, but how to integrate it partially or in full. If we opt for AI-assisted assessment, we can consider introducing partial AI use. For example, for brainstorming and ideas. I will show to you one app that I created. It's called QSmart. I'll try to open it. It has a simple interface. I made it for my students to help them brainstorm for ideas and to help them produce better ideas when they write an essay or when they have a monologue to give. It's based on a cognitive verifier pattern prompt. That's a pattern which is used in machine learning to verify or to clarify, or probably to put it nicer, to help improve the quality of AI output. And it works like this. The user asks a question. For example, our essay was, what makes a person happy? And the model is supposed to generate 3 sub-questions that will help answer this question. So the model does not give the answer, but the model generates sub-questions that may be useful to give a more detailed answer to the question. It works fantastic in relation to some vague questions like, why should we hire you, right? If that's about employment, or tell me about yourself, because that's a vague topic. Yes, the model can help you generate some sub-questions. So once again, I made it for my students, and they can use it as an assistant or as a buddy that helps brainstorm ideas. It doesn't give ready-made solutions, but you need to write an essay. Now try to work out some aspects that you may focus on to give a more detailed answer. For example, here, what are some common factors that contribute to a person's happiness according to psychology? How can personal relationships affect a person's happiness? Can a person's environment and lifestyle choices significantly influence their happiness? You can also choose some sub-question, and then you feed it, and then the model will produce some more sub-questions to the sub-question that you had. So that's talking about inquiry-based learning and critical thinking. And I think that it can really benefit our students, because it can help improve a much wider or broad skill set of our students, not just language abilities, but critical thinking at the same time.
Can I ask a question? Can this app also answer like technical questions from like disciplinary fields? I don't know, mechanical engineering, computer science?
It depends. Yeah, sure, because it's connected to the large language model. It's just I produced a particular prompt. You will have an example of it, and you will have the prompt itself in your worksheet, so you can try it with ChatGPT. Again, there is no magic. I just made an interface, and I connected it via API to ChatGPT. So but I can monitor, since that's my app, I can monitor the answers and questions that are fed into the machine. So here's the prompt. When I ask you a question, generate 3 additional thought-provoking questions. My task was that the audience are students, like university students. You can specify that. You can specify that that's a particular area that you would like you to focus on, etc. So you can give some specific information, and then it can be any field. It can be anything. I mean, anything that the large language model has data on. That's magic. But that's one of the ways to introduce AI and to use it as a thinking partner or brainstorming partner. Okay.
Lana, we have also a question in the chat, and I think maybe in a lot of people's heads here. Can we have a short like coffee break, 10-minute break, for people to just stand up, walk around, because we're already an hour and a half on Zoom.
I know.
Some stretching and then come back for further discussion because we want to follow and be focused on the remaining slides. And then I will also have my part. I will give you another break. Then we'll probably have then 2 breaks. So 1 now and 1 later. Is this going to be okay by you, Lana?
It's absolutely fine with me.
Yeah?
It's actually, I mean, I was wary of the fact that there will be some theory. I have to introduce certain things. We have to talk about certain theory things. We have to talk about some factors, some underlying factors, because we can't just rush into, okay, use this applications, use that, use this, right?
Yeah.
So probably for this practical part, we could take a break, right? And then you will be more ready for practice.
So just, maybe 15 minutes, like no more than that, because we have a lot to present and a lot to cover and discuss. So
Okay.
again, everyone is encouraged to just stand up from their chairs, walk around, even if you don't need coffee, bring
Yeah,
yourself
so-
something to drink.
What time are we coming back exactly?
So let's take 15 minutes from now, which means 22, like 11:41.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. See
See
you
you
then.
soon then.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe people need a bathroom break or whatever. So I'm going to stop the recording, pause the recording for now. Okay, so we are back from the coffee break and we're diving right into the how, right? How do we actually implement AI in the assessment?
Okay. Elena, you give me a signal when I should continue.
Um,
I've tagged in some links to some apps that
mhm.
I will be describing today, or I have already described. So that's QSmart. And now we'll proceed and we'll.
Wonderful. So yeah, please pay attention in the chat. You have some links to the apps that we're going to discuss now. Lana, just a general question before you continue. Are these resources free? Like, can we use them in our LMS, in our courses in higher education?
Well, I open them for general public. So everything that I share, either openly on my blog or have created somewhere else, I mean, I'll specify which are based on a particular platform. They are all free. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, wonderful. So
But again, sometimes when I create something, I do it for my own purposes. So if you feel like using it, just get in touch, because sometimes I specify some prompts, again, in line with my students, just to meet the learning objectives that we have. So sometimes you may need something else. You may probably need a certain variation, a certain tweak in the prompt. But feel free to get in touch with me. I can always help. So, but everything is free, yeah.
Okay, so that's for our inspiration, and then we can create our own custom-made resources for assessment in our courses. Great. That's
Okay,
wonderful.
so we have just taken a look at brainstorming, that you can use a large language model to brainstorm, to get some ideas, to help students generate some ideas. The next use that we can consider is using AI as a body to help students outline entire responses or convert their notes into organized ideas, and for peer review. And for this use, we can consider programming a chatbot. Probably a chatbot functions better in this case. And now we'll show to you one chatbot that I created. Programmed. I used, that's a third-party platform. I rarely use third-party platforms, but that's one of the cases. That's Mizu. I don't know if you've heard about it, if you have already tried it. It's free for educators, so I thought I should explore it and see what it offers to teachers. And the functionality is pretty nice. I suppose that they do not have, they do not connect to GPT-4. That's most likely GPT 3.5 Turbo, but it works well for our purpose. And okay, just a second. Okay, share. And now we'll show what it looks like. Okay. All right, sorry. So that's my rating body, as I call it. That's the body that helps the chatbot that I programmed to assist my students and guide them through the writing process. It's based, as any writing chatbot, it's based on the following, actually not as any chatbot. I use a specific prompt for this chatbot, and I think that you might find it interesting for you, because I tried to reverse the usual interaction pattern when students just ask a question. They say, we need an essay on this and that topic, right? And ChatGPT or any other language model generates an answer. I tried to reverse this dynamic, and I used the flipped interaction pattern. The flipped interaction pattern is again used in machine learning, and it trains the machine to get enough information before, to ask questions and get enough information before it provides answers, or generates a certain output. So the prompt is as follows. I would like you to ask questions to produce a piece of writing on a topic I specify. You should ask questions until you have enough information. Ask questions one by one and wait for the response. Analyze the answers for grammar and vocabulary accuracy. That's what I added because I wanted students to also focus on their grammar and vocabulary accuracy. When I have answered all the questions, combine the answers to produce my piece of writing. So it works like this. You specify what you would like to write. For example, when I open the chatbot.
Welcome to R8ing Buddy. I'm here to assist and guide you. What would you like to write and on which topic?
Okay, I'd like to write an essay on the topic, what makes a person happy?
That's a great topic for an essay. Let's start with some planning. How would you like to approach the topic? For instance, would you prefer focusing on psychological aspects, personal experiences, societal influences, or a blend of these perspectives?
Let's go for the blend of these perspectives. Okay, and then
Excellent choice. Could you share what you think are the key psychological factors that contribute to a person's happiness?
and then the student starts giving their ideas on this or that question. So the chatbot will be guiding, will probably ask about 10, 12 questions in total. We'll get the information, and then finally, the chatbot will combine the answers to produce a piece of writing. And in the prompt, I asked the chatbot, I mean, that's one of the rules. I asked the chatbot to preserve the original input as given in the answers as much as possible. So it's a really interesting approach because, again, it helps us achieve the following. Students do not outsource thinking to the AI machine. AI-powered chatbot. They do not outsource thinking. Instead, the chatbot helps them structure their ideas, right? Drill down certain things, right? Think about different angles from the same topic, which is again a practice which may help students immensely.
And just to be sure, this doesn't write it for them, right? It just gives them ideas.
It gives them questions. So it asks a question, the student is supposed to answer that, but what it does, it will combine the answers into one piece. And I can show to you what it might look like.
So there will be an essay produced at the end, right? And I know the app will...
No, it will combine... Did I include that? Or actually, no. It will produce a certain piece of writing based on their answers, but it will not modify that a lot. So it will just structure it nicely. It will agree on the structure if it's an essay. If it's something shorter, like a paragraph, then it will not be discussing the outline. But if that's an essay, then the chatbot may ask for the outline ideas. How would you like me to structure, right? So, and then we'll combine the answers together into one piece.
So it creates an outline then. It creates an outline. That's the product that it produces at the end.
No. It will create the whole piece of writing, combined of the answers that students gave. That's
okay. All right.
But again, you can specify it. You may ask it not to produce, not to combine the answers. But again, my main idea here was to help them guide through the writing process, because it really helps structure ideas and again, think about the same problem but from different aspects.
So,
what is good about this application?
Sorry, Lana, yes, the video question?
So, you're showing us how to use this, but I'm curious about how much time do you spend in the classroom teaching them about logical connection between ideas? Like, what are you doing that makes them see what the AI is doing for them? Is my question clear?
It's just part of the routine. I mean, I can't say that this very chatbot will substitute or replace all the practice that I have. Of course, we will, for structuring an academic essay, something that might take about 24 hours at least, like where we go through outlining, structuring, etc., all the points. It will be just part of the segment, but it's not a replacement. It's not like magically they will use this chatbot and I will outsource all that structuring work. For example, in my particular case, I usually start with 4-square method with my students. That's, again, the method that you can find on my blog, where I teach them how to structure ideas, how to give the hierarchy, how to think about argumentation, so how to get the whole picture.
Okay.
So they have already this knowledge, right?
Your students do.
Is a supplementary tool, something as a support. That's something for scaffolding, right? But not, again, not a replacement. You have no hours for structuring because students will use the chatbot. But that's one of the parts that you may consider introducing, because it will strengthen the practice and will probably help some struggling writers sometimes. Not all students are really good at immediately producing good pieces. We will see the implementation, the use of this very prompt in another use case for teachers. And you will see how it can variate and how it can be useful for both parties involved, students and teachers.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that some of us already are familiar with this platform of chatbot creation. And actually, I mean, if we diverge from writing and or AI thing, like you mentioned here, this could be used for kind of assessment of oral proficiency, because as you demonstrated, you can actually play the questions and the students can record their answers with the microphone. And then what's nice about this particular app is that the teacher has the control over the rubrics and the timing that the student spends with the bot. The students don't have to log in. They don't have to create their own accounts to log in and interact with the bot. And the teacher also has all the data behind this interaction. So they will actually see how much time each student spent interacting with the bot. And there will be even AI generated assessment. Apropos the topic today, the assessment is integrated with the tool, and you don't even have to think hard about the rubrics, because the rubrics also will be kind of auto generated for you, and like it's so magical. We will have a separate session about it only still, because it's really, really wonderful. It can have tons of different applications in both assessment for learning and maybe even assessment of learning, if you want to integrate this as part of your exam, maybe, or oral assessment, because it can work like that.
I just wanted to show to you, I mean, that's something that I plan to show to you as well. I mean, why it is important for assessment and why I use it for assessment. The key idea here is that you have access to the chat between the student and the chatbot. So after your student has completed their writing, right, you can have access and you can see the whole chat between the student and the chatbot. And that simplifies assessment. You can introduce a rubric. I haven't done that because my main focus here was on the student's ability to express opinions and present well-argued ideas. I wanted to see, and that's for formative assessment, I wanted to see how they present their ideas. And because we have a certain part in the curriculum where they have to learn how to present well-argued ideas. So that was my focus. But again, depending on your focus, you variate, you tweak the prompt, you introduce the rubric, with the criteria that are relevant for you, and you use that for assessment because you have all the data. So that's, again, as a writing partner, but again, and that's my main principle, we have to monitor everything. So that's a question of monitoring. One more application or potential use case is feedback. AI can also be used to provide immediate feedback to students and act as a language assistant. And if, okay. And I think that a year ago, when we had that fantastic session, when there was this hype on, right? We had a fantastic session on the potential impact of AI for on education and for teaching and learning, implications for teaching and learning. I was at that time I was showcasing my question chart, saying that I developed this app to help students develop higher order thinking. And in this app, students are supposed to answer different questions, right? It's gamified based on the article they've read or something else on the passage. So I'm checking how well they can ask questions. At the same time, we practice higher order thinking. But my main concern was that, unfortunately, students cannot get immediate feedback. They write questions, yet since questions are open-ended, I mean, we cannot program that. We cannot set the right limitations to the app. It's not a multiple choice thing, that these are open-ended responses. I cannot guarantee that I will check that immediately. So students will need to wait, submitting questions to me. And I thought that AI would be really helpful for providing feedback to students. And here's how it got implemented. So in a year, I'm showing what I made out of it. For example, here we can type a question, how? For example, how would you do it? Principle is simple. And let's make a mistake. How I will do it. Of course, there will be more substantial in, that's just for an example. Then after students have completed a certain part of questions, we can copy the questions and we can check them with the language assistant. And that's the language assistant. I'll just go straight to the page. You can do it straight in the app, or you can go to a particular page. And that's the page on my website, which I control. As I said, I do not trust third-party providers. That's the website that I know that the data is secure there, that I'm the one who holds ownership. And here we can start chatting with the language assistant. So it opens up with this, that's automatic. Hey there, I'm your language teacher assistant, and I'm here to help you ace those language classes, anything you want me to look over. The language assistant is programmed to check students' questions, to review them, but unlike ChatGPT, it will not give immediate answers. It works in a different way. Okay, let's see what it writes. Great start. Your first question, how would you do it? Is spot on, good job. It's a perfect example of a conditional question, asking for a method, blah, blah. Now let's take a look at your second question. How will I do it? This one needs a little tweak to make it a proper question in English. Can you think of the way to rearrange the words, etc.? So it does not give the right answers. Like it does not say, okay, these are wrong answers. It shows that these are problematic questions, and it guides students, for example, how I will do it. Okay, let's give it, how will I do it? Let's give the right response. That's the ticket. How will I do it? Is exactly right. You've correctly placed the auxiliary verb, etc. Well, your students will have, my students will have more questions, definitely. And then now that we've gone through both sentences, do you feel clear about how to form these types of questions? And if you are up for it, we could do a quick exercise. So it offers to practice further. Okay. Awesome, here's a little gap fill exercise, and then it suggests a little gap fill exercise to practice. It's actually programmed to produce a gap fill exercise and an exercise with open-ended responses to make sure again, that the students understand the structure, the grammar, right? And they use it accurately. And at the same time, they are able to use the structures in speech. So that will be like a bit of a conversation. So what I did here is that I turned this feedback process into a learning process on one hand. And on the other hand, again, I have access to all the data, to the chats between my students and the chatbot. So I can use this data for formative assessment, like to feed my classes and to feed further work that we will be doing with students in class. So that's the language assistant. Do you have any questions here? It's very chatty, just in case. I was working with it. I think that I should limit this chat, but it's very chatty, but I asked it to be cheerful, to be optimistic, to cheer up students. It's like a motivational coach in a way, so that students did not get discouraged. And it's okay to make mistakes because we learn from mistakes. So that's the motto of the chatbot. Okay, right. And now, so that's the part for students. As you've seen, there are numerous applications for assessment purposes that we can use AI for. So you can either fully integrate it and provide this writing assistant, writing partner, where the whole task will be based or will be carried out together with AI, or you can use some elements of AI. So that's partial AI use in assessment, when you can help students brainstorm certain ideas. And I also thought that it would probably be important. It would be a good idea to show how AI can actually empower us educators in the process of rethinking our assessments and help us develop new assessment tasks. So that part was about rethinking and partial or full integration of AI. Now let us look at it from the teacher's perspective, right? How it can help us generate new assessment tasks. And today I would like to show to you one example. That's the assessment task generator. That's the generator I haven't shared. If you follow my blog, you've probably seen the 5-minute activity generator that I published for language teachers. And this generator I haven't published yet, because I'm still working on it, trying to get the most consistent results, and again, tweaking certain things, but it can probably be handy for you. That's the generator that I developed to help language teachers come up with authentic assessment tasks for students. It has a number of variables. And I think you have a link in the chat, so you can open up the generator if you'd like to see how it works real time. Okay. It has a number of variables that you have to fill in, like objective or a learning outcome that you have. Let's use writing an email, for example. Then I've included also context, a particular context to make this assessment more specific. I'm working with university students specializing in international trade, and I would probably like to specify it further. Montenegro and UK. I would like some specific references in the task to make it more personalized. Skills focus. The focus, let us choose writing. Vocabulary and structures. Okay. Modal verbs and polite requests. Again, you can be feeling that depending on your learning outcomes on
Do we have to fill all this out, or can we leave them blank?
No, you don't. No, you don't. But you should remember one thing. The more information you provide, the better the output will be. So if you give some scarce information, if the prompt is vague, that's the first rule. If the prompt is vague, the output will be vague. If you want it to be really specific, if you don't want to spend too much time tweaking it, then try to give as detailed information as possible. Again, you don't have to provide personal information, right? But you can specify, you can make it kind of special for you. The proficiency level of students, let it be upper intermediate.
Can we also use the CFR levels here in the proficiency?
Again, it depends, Elena, because again, for my own purposes, I would be using CFR. I would be using, because that's Europe. But I know that my generators are used extensively by Australian and American educators as well, and they don't use this CFR.
Oh.
So that's why I resorted to objective, but there we put the outcome that we have. And I did not include the level of CFR, but if you include it, it will understand, because again, it's connected to GPT-4. And it has already this knowledge in the database. So you either you write up intermediate or you write B2, right? And preferences.
You raised the question. Samia raised the question previously. Did you want to say something or ask?
In fact, I wanted to ask about the previous slide where you, what I noticed is that these apps or platforms that you're sharing with us emphasize explicit grammar teaching rather than the trend for communicative approach for teaching languages. So I was wondering, where do you balance between implicit teaching, grammar, and teaching English for the purpose of communication? It's very unclear to me.
Okay, Samia, I'm sorry that I produced this impression that I focus on grammar mainly, but
maybe I got things wrong. I don't know. I just wanted you to clarify.
The main thing is the following: the apps that I'm showing to you were designed. I mean, I designed these apps before as a scaffolding for students, because I know that sometimes they need a certain component of overlearning, meaning revising and repeating the same structure again and again to automate it. In the classroom, we do not always have enough time, you know, to do that work, to do that drilling work, to do overlearning. And that's why the main idea was to produce such apps that can be used by students on their own, at home, to overlearn in a gamified format. For example, my students sometimes have some issues with asking questions. That's the word order in the questions. So I produced this app thinking that on one hand, it helps them develop higher order thinking. On the other hand, they practice this, that's the grammar point, they practice the structure of questions. But of course, in the classroom, that saves time, because instead of drilling, instead of overlearning in the classroom, I can focus on meaningful practice. I can focus on communication. So basically what I do is that I give the time in the classroom that I would spend otherwise on overlearning, and I get it for their home use. But as for apps, but I have lots of communicative tasks, and for example, the activity generator does not focus on grammar at all. I promise, because it's based on communication and it develops communicative tasks just to practice communication. So it all depends on the purpose behind. I hope I've answered that. And preferences in the generator, you can fill in any preference that you have. For example, I would like the task to be authentic, and might include, okay, you can see the windows here. Okay, let us include peer review as a component. Okay. I'm improvising here, but again, if you use it, you will be using it for your own purpose, right? And you will feed your own data, which is valid for you. Now let us see what it produces. So objective, context, skills focus, vocabulary structures. Okay. Can I hide this? Okay. Task scenario. So the scenario is the following: you have been working at your company for several years and have consistently met or exceeded your performance targets. You believe that your contributions to the team and company merit a salary increase. You have decided to write a formal email to your leader to discuss this matter. I don't really preparation. I forgot to use no AI or with AI, but it's okay. It's okay. There is one more variable. and it shows to me that it's missing. There's one more variable, and that is, okay. And that is whether I would like AI to be integrated or I would like to do the task without any AI. And I did it specifically, again, to simplify my job. And again, when I was thinking of the concept of this generator, and that was August, I still believed that I could outsmart and outrun AI, and I could introduce such conditions that will basically prevent the use of AI. So the prompt that I will share with you, that's the prompt that drives this generator. And it goes like this: act as an expert in language assessment, develop an authentic assessment task to assess students' mastery of learning objective outcome, tailor the task to the specified context, skills focus, and vocabulary structures, ensuring that it is suitable for the language level of the students, align the task with the teacher's preferences, provide assessment criteria, integrate AI at the designated level of AI integration. And then I gave some specifications that I probably will remove. No AI, ensure the task is completed under supervision, potentially handwritten, and or under exam conditions. Include points that cannot be completed by AI, such as use local information or events, and make it personal. And with AI, outline how AI will be integrated into the task, detailing its functions in the assessment process. Ensure instructions are clear for both students and teachers regarding AI interaction and assessment submission. And that's the prompt that you can use ChatGPT. I mean, if you wouldn't like to use the generator, you can just go to ChatGPT, right? And you can try and generate some assessment tasks for yourself, right, using this prompt or tweaking this prompt the way you need. Again, what is interesting here is that now it actually it fulfills all the parameters. It provides the composition, review, submission, assessment criteria, instructions for students, instructions for teachers. So it's pretty detailed. And it can be used, again, to inform new assessment design. So, for example, the design of new assessment tasks. What I haven't done here, though, is including a rubric, because I thought that rubric creation is should be ideally outsourced to a chatbot. Because when you create a rubric, the first attempt of ChatGPT, if you have ever created a rubric with ChatGPT, the first attempt is usually not really good. It's pretty much vague. It's impressive. It has all the columns, but it's vague. And then you start working on that. So ideally, you need a chatbot functionality. For this task, I made a rubric wizard for myself with the learning with two variables, and that is the assessment task itself that I would like to assess, and the learning objective, can write an email. And it's based on the principle of this reverse interaction that I showed to you a bit earlier in the writing board. Welcome to, hello. So you provide the information on your assessment task, and then you start this rubric creation process. I'm ready to assist you. To get started, could you please tell me? And then you're supposed to answer some questions. So it basically starts asking me a number of questions that I need to answer for the chatbot to generate a rubric. So we will not go through the whole routine, but just the general idea how it works. It will be asking questions, then it will generate a rubric. And then most likely I will ask it to modify it a bit. Again, not to do everything with the chatbot. And again, just as with other apps, I'm sharing with you the prompt that feeds this wizard, rubric wizard, and it goes like this. Act as an expert in language assessment and assessment rubrics. Write an assessment rubric for the following assessment task, and the task is specified, to assess students' mastery of learning objective. Add-ons to improve the quality of the output. if you use ChatGPT, then I suggest adding this flipped interaction pattern. I would like you to ask me questions to help me produce a rubric. You should ask questions until you have enough information to create the rubric, ask questions one by one, and wait for my response. When I have answered all the questions, create rubric for me. So that's the prompt that drives this wizard. And again, it depends on you. Either you try the rubric wizard, the link to which I gave to you, right? It's powered by GPT-4. Or you can use ChatGPT. It all depends on which model you use. Or download a local model and try to play with the local model and see how it can cope with the task of creating a rubric. Okay, so okay. Now, just to sum up all the information that I gave, we need to bear in mind that we are at a relatively early stage of AI development. We are all exploring. There are no ready-made solutions. Yet, there are certain ideas that you can adopt to integrate AI in your practice, to think what benefit it might have, how you can use it for your own purposes, how you can use it for assessment, and what you can do in relation to the assessment system to, again, to meet the modern life requirements. What we should remember, the key messages that I wanted to give today, is that AI only magnifies who you are as a teacher. That's the phrase that I borrowed. And I think it fantastically shows the importance of expertise of the teacher who's driving the model. Gen AI will strengthen any existing system it's integrated with. There is no magic about AI. It will support whatever we would like it to support. So if we want a change in the assessment system, we are the drivers of the change, not AI. AI will just help us. Gen AI can do a lot of what we currently assess, and that necessitates this inventory of assessment tasks that you already have. Look at your assessment tasks. Think of probably some redesign options that you may introduce. If take-home assessments can be completed with AI, perhaps they should be. So if there are any take-home assessments, then consider integrating some AI, some component, at least some component. AI cannot be accurately detected by either AI or humans. Let's not flatter ourselves. Even if we are language teachers, sometimes it's really not detectable. The content is not detectable. AI-supported assessment is continuous, adaptive, and authentic, or at least AI can support introducing of continuous, adaptive, and authentic assessment. And current features of AI, such as multimodality, embeddings, or local models, APIs, fine-tuning, and roles, may significantly address the challenges and risks that we currently have, specifically risks connected with data privacy. And then the choice is up to you. AI-proof or AI-assisted? Would you like to prevent the use of AI, or would you go for AI-assisted assessment? So that's the final question. And I would like to wrap up my presentation with this. Have you said yes to the dress, or have you said yes to AI? But I remember that nearly everybody said yes, right, at the beginning. So I hope that you still persist, that you still say yes to AI.
Yes.
That is it from me.
Thank you so much, Lana. Thank you very much. Any questions, please address them now. I don't know, will you stay with us for a bit, or do you need to go? Anyways, I will not give you a break for now, because we will jump into something exciting I wanted to take on, and then we will have another very short break, and we want to finish before 2. So yes, let's give some time for questions. Pavel, please.
Thank you for your talk. Yeah, I enjoyed and learned many interesting things. I have a question regarding so I got that for the language teachers, you have a lot of different tools, right? But are you aware of any tools for more technical writing, or even evaluating like the solutions with equations, like I don't know, like mathematical or like physical problems?
Well, you know what, that's what I said at the very beginning. I believe in this area of expertise. My area of expertise is in everything that is connected with language learning and methods of teaching. So I focus on that. As for mathematics, I think that I don't think I could be of much help here. Because again, first I work with language models, but again, in the domain of a language, everything language related. So I would suggest, though, getting in touch on LinkedIn. There are lots of groups, right? And there are lots of professionals who are really interested in AI and AI integration. So I would suggest finding some groups of teachers of mathematics or technical writers, right? Because I'm more than sure that they have developed something. And I think that you will probably get much more valuable advice rather than if I try to give some platforms. I know that the models can cope with all these assignments, better or worse, it depends. But again, I would suggest following somebody on LinkedIn who has this professional knowledge, expertise in the area.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm also aware of some platforms specifically developed for mathematics and physics, and they are basically the idea of AI taking a place of a TA in our courses is the one that is revolutionary, and also the assessment can be part of the load that AI can take upon. So it's either students can prepare for their exams and have their like AI chatbots tutor them towards different exam questions. So yeah, so
you know what, just to make a mention of that, because again, it probably relates to the conversation. Now there is a trend, because we started with a general language model, right? That has all the domains possible. It can cover it all. ChatGPT covers it all. Like you have a question in mathematics or you have something else, right? Or you are interested in geography. So it's like a know-it-all person, right? Who you can get in touch with, and it will give you some expert advice or just advice or some information. But now there is a trend to actually narrow down the domains of models, meaning that I think that in a year or so, or probably now, they are training models that specialize on a particular domain. So there will be a model that will have more, and I think that that's the way to improve the expertise of the model itself and the quality of the output. So it won't be like one size fits all model, but that's a narrowed down model. And probably there is something already being developed for mathematics and sciences. So you should check that, because that could be interesting.
Actually, I'm in many different WhatsApp groups that relate to AI in education in general, or specifically in higher education, or specifically for English teachers. So very many, like many different some of them are in Hebrew, some of them are for research, and like someone asked a question about like what kind of AI tools support mathematics, and I'm not an expert specifically in teaching mathematics. My grandma was a professor in the mathematics in the university, but not. So I just asked ChatGPT, and actually, I've heard about Wolfram Alpha, and I saw it in many different presentations and professional development trainings, and it's really impressive, and I know it's very, very good. So I just needed to verify that I remember the name right. So I just wrote to ChatGPT, what are the AI tools that you can suggest that supports mathematics teaching? And you have a list there, so you can just go and explore, I guess. So I put it in the chat. Pavel, you can, are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I know Wolfram Mathematica, but I asked specifically about the assessment. So when I check the homework assignments, it could have saved me a lot of time if there is such a tool, because Mathematica is very powerful, but I haven't heard either it can be used for assessment. Probably now, yes, yeah, because but developing so rapidly now.
You try it. You have a prompt, right? I gave you the prompt.
Yeah.
It's general, but you should tweak it, right? Use the principles that guide assessment in your subject, and feed these principles. So use them in your prompt, and try to get ChatGPT to provide assessment assignments or rubrics for you. Use it for your own purposes. The main idea here today was not to show that I am so good at building apps, right, and using AI, but I wanted to show that a teacher nowadays does not need to be a data genius. You don't need to know coding, right, to build an app that you need for your own purposes, because now we interact using natural language. But then our expertise, our guiding principles that we have will be fed into the model and will be guiding the model regarding the output that it should be providing. So use your expertise, tweak the prompt, and try to see whether it works or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Lana before I jump into my little introduction and a little practice? It's going to be practical for you guys. You will all have some time to reflect, to write something, to think about different things that I will show you.
Sounds interesting.
Any questions? Okay, so let's jump right in because we have an hour and a half left, and we will also probably need a little break somewhere in the middle. So I'm already shortening some of the things. Maybe we have time towards the end. I will show you some of my inspiration for this training, because I'm part of, as I said, many different WhatsApp groups, also Facebook groups of many educators. There are Facebook groups of 500,000 educators that are interested in the use of AI all over the world and discussing ChatGPT and discussing the cheating or not cheating issues in higher education. So one of the principles, one of the articles that I found really interesting several months ago, and it was already shared many times across different WhatsApp platforms. I'm going to share it with you right now. I'll share my screen and show you. And then we will have some actual, interaction with this material, because I want you to also think within the prism of your specific expertise, of your field, of your course, and how you will implement the ideas presented by the educators that discuss the topic of whether using AI is cheating or not cheating. So like we're talking about assessment, so we have to ask this question again. So I'm gonna share my screen right now and show you the article again and give you the link to it. So the article is from DigTech textbook. I think I found this blogger like a few months ago, but I think also this has been kind of edited a few times already. So I'm sending the link to the website on the chat. What I liked about this particular article, and I don't know if it's a blog or an article, but there was also a podcast on Spotify, and I can also share the link to the Spotify podcast with a series of interesting discussions around many different things related to the use of AI in education. So there is like a higher education expert from one of the American universities, and they discuss the use of AI. So basically the title of the article is whether when we introduce AI in the classroom, what is cheating and what's okay. So the author here presented a very interesting model that actually evolved. There were only 6 lines, and then it evolved into 12 lines. And the graphic representation of what are the different scenarios of student interaction with AI in the classroom, which could be also translated into the student interaction with AI during assessment, right? And then our attitude to these different scenarios. And here you can see on the side, there is like the level of more human or less human, or more AI created or less AI created. So it goes from AI does student work for them with no thought by the student. It's like 100% AI, no student thinking involved, no student work involved, right? And we have this idea of some teachers, and I believe this will also last for quite a long time before everyone actually realizes the problem and realizes the lack of pedagogy. So those not AI-proof assignments where you give it an assignment, student just copy paste it into ChatGPT, gets the answer, put it back on Moodle or whatever learning management platform you have, submits it as their own without even sometimes reading. Why should you bother reading an assignment when the AI can do it all for you? And then, God forbid, you also gets a good grade on it. So I don't know if you agree with me or not, but this practice might be around for quite some time before everyone actually, like all the educators actually realize. They have started realizing the problem, but not everyone has begun actually revising their curriculum, revising their teaching, and revising their assessment assignments. So the 100% AI generated assignment that is presented as a student work can obviously be counted as cheating 100%. I think everyone agrees on that. And the question is whether it, they go away with it or not, and how ethical or not, and whether they should be bothering, like really, do they have to bother and, not cheat if they can cheat and no one punishes them, right? So a million of questions, and we will actually raise some of these questions now. So there is a scale, and the actual, zero AI scenario would be student does all work without any assistance from AI or even the internet and so on, right? So it's all human brain, no technology involved, and this would be 100% human work. Now, and then we have a huge list of all different scenarios where there are all kinds of interactions with more or less AI involved, like human AI and human interaction with AI. So it's very, very interesting. I want to actually, first of all, let me ask you if you're familiar with this graph, with this idea of AI human interaction, like percentages and scenarios in the classroom. Can you just refer to this in the chat, yes or no, whether you're familiar with this concept, because it's been around for quite some time with some podcasts, some graphics that have been shared on social media. So we have a yes and a no. And maybe yes, some more yeses. Excellent. So you are familiar. Well, I've been familiar with this one for quite some time, but you know what? I'm pretty sure that most of us have seen it, have thought, okay, that's nice, that's interesting. The question is, what's really okay for us specifically in our context? Because there is a certain kind of a gray area where it comes to sometimes personal liking or personal preferences or personal values, or the institution kind of rules. Some institutions really are enforcing it, even like encouraging the use of AI, while others are more concerned and maybe impose more, more kind of regulation regarding the use of AI. So the question is, what's okay for you personally at each one of the levels of the use of AI, human interaction? What's not okay? For whom? Is it okay for you? Maybe it's okay for the, like, we have to think also from the student perspective, right? Whether it's okay for us, whether it's okay for our institution, whether it's okay for the student, whether it's okay for their future employability, right? For what work, right? There are many different assignments. So maybe some of the tasks that you actually want your students to do some of the things and some not. Under what circumstances, what work best prepares students for their future? Again, right? Sometimes we want to think out of our comfort zone, right? So we've spent so much time designing those courses, designing those tests or assignments and tasks and everything, and now we have to change everything. And well, sometimes yes, yeah, it's crazy. So it really takes us on a whole new journey. And where do you draw the line for your students? At what point is it students' work and no longer AI? And all these questions are really vague, and I'm going to invite you now to actually think of your own answers. So we will go through each one of these lines, discuss this briefly, and then go into each one of your individual examples of how you envision this could have already happened in your class, maybe. We will see what happened, and then so we have the following two things. And there is another interesting comment that is, it's like also an article that goes on. First of all, every level of AI human percentage interaction that is described also has a sub-level of student transparency, right? A kind of policy. So how transparent has the student been with us, and do they have to be with us at each of the levels, right? So let's again go back to the obvious, right, where AI does all the student work for them with no thought by the student, and the student obviously submits it as their own. So there is no transparency, right? The student is passing off AI work as their own. And again, this probably has happened to you in the past or will happen. Let's wait and see, right? The question is, what do we do with this information? What do we do in this situation personally, on a personal level? And in this training, in this next hour, what we're going to do here. So I put all of these different levels of AI invasion into our teaching and assessment realm. And I created some questions for you to think about. So the first question, you will, for example, when this happens and everything is just done by AI, I know that it happened to me. I don't know, maybe already hundreds of times, because I teach a lot of students and I mean, I do spend a lot of time also teaching digital literacy and talking about integrity and ethics and talking about plagiarism and teaching them how to cite and talking about the ethical use of AI. Nothing happens. Teaching will always be there. Cheating and teaching. Cheating would always be there. So some students just, for some reason, think I don't know. They just put my whatever question they get in the Moodle, put it in the AI, and then submit it as their answer. So let me just introduce the table, and then we will talk about it. So I want you, for each of the levels, to think about the particular situation or example that has happened or might happen in your course, in your classroom, in your discipline, and then your thoughts. Your initial thoughts, like your reaction. What do you think about? Like, how would you react? Are you gonna be? Do you laugh? Do you say, "Oh my God"? Do you like? What is your reaction? Do you understand them? Maybe. Can you blame yourself for not, providing maybe a more creative assignment? Because I have gone through all these emotions, right? What is your human reaction to you seeing your students submit AI as their own work, right? So what are your reaction, maybe initial thoughts? Then how to reflect this whole situation, this whole issue, this whole problem in your institution, like in the future, right? We're going to address the problem. So for the future, so what needs to be added to the syllabus, maybe to try to still, we're trying to prevent student cheating, right? We want them to learn. We want them to master the 21st century skills. We want them to be ready for the job market. So how do we prevent, do we add the specific rubrics to avoid you could add a rubric I actually added a rubric if the assignment, again, we just mentioned that you can never prove such a thing. So there is a lot of discussion. So what do? Do you say that if it's clearly copied from AI, you get a 0 points? But how do you prove that? Again, so many questions. How to prevent it, how to document AI human proportion, right? And that student transparency, actually you have the link here to the article, and the student transparency actually is given to you here. So for each level, there is a level that is, there is a kind of behavior that is expressed and explained for each of the situations. So if in the first case, students suggest cheating, right? It's obvious, but maybe when AI guides through, well, we talked about the writing coach, maybe just let's talk about student writes a draft, and then AI writes a draft, and then student adds the best AI ideas to their draft. So what about the transparency? Do students have to report on this process, right? And if yes, then how? All of the questions are open questions, and there are no right or wrong answers. It's basically you deciding for yourself. And then, tomorrow you can totally change your mind. But today, in this particular webinar, I want you to start reflecting on these different, very difficult questions and actually start drafting some of your personal answers to this, okay? Sami, you raised the question and you raised the hand, and then we will continue.
Yes, so I wanted to say that under normal circumstances, we would plan our courses before we start teaching them, and we will decide on the learning outcomes and methodology, pedagogy, everything before the course starts. Now we are in a situation that things change from one day to another. And as teachers, we are not sure as to what to expect. And another thing that adds to our dilemma and difficulties is that some of our students, I don't know, it depends on what type of students you get and what their experiences are, they do not know enough about technology. And then we need to not just to teach them about how to write the prompt, but we need to teach them about how to use the tool, which is very time consuming. And for us as teachers, we need to learn about the tools. We need to learn how to use them. We need to rethink things we've decided to do before the semester started. So it just feel insecure, like in a situation where you're not sure that you're doing good job. I mean, we are here, we're learning, so that's a good job. That's something good we're doing. We're learning, we're upgrading our level of expertise. But I just, personally speaking, I just feel that I'm not confident enough about introducing or using any of these tools, because I'm just piloting and experimenting with these tools. I'm not proficient yet. That's how I feel. So I just wanted to share this feeling.
Thank you, Samia. So I totally hear you, and the problem here is that it's sometimes, many teachers will relate to what you're saying, that it's not obvious that we know how to manipulate all of the tools that exist, and it's not obvious how do we even check whether this has been produced by AI or by students. So there are so many things that we still are just learning ourselves. Another question is that, when it happens, and because you said that some students will find it hard, but some students don't find it hard, and they have been using these tools. They started even using them before we got familiar with them. So let's jump into maybe like a year from now. Maybe you're already more efficient, but let's just think about strategic and our own values and just evaluate the situation when it's there. So like the first thing that I mentioned, right, when AI does the student work for them from A to Z, just copy paste of the task, and the student submits it as their own. What are your thoughts about it? I want just a little bit of brainstorming here, and then I will give you that other table that I showed you, where you can actually start a more like deeper reflection and thinking of suggestions, solutions, like different scenarios. So we really want, but I want like a brief reaction. So you can even add it as a comment. You have a link in the chat. So and it's anonymous also, right? You don't have to say who you are, but really, what are your real feelings? Because some people, I know that some teachers are just angry and furious, and they hate it when students kind of are dishonest, and some students say, okay, I know that they're cheating, I don't care, I still pass them for that. I mean, and there is such a variety of actual teacher attitudes to this situation. So let's find out where we are at here in this little group. So what are your thoughts on 100% completed AI work for a human? And of course, when we think about the academic setting, it's sort of cheating. But what about this happening in the workplace where, you need to do something, you ask an AI tool to do it for you, you get it done, and you move on, right? You move on to the next task. It's kind of similar, right? If you don't evaluate the result critically, of course, right? So the outcome might be not as quality, but who knows? AI is progressing so fast. Maybe it's going to be just better than whatever we can even imagine. Okay. Absolutely cheating. Please help. What do we do with this? Okay. You feel bad for a student. Daniel says that they are probably losing the opportunity to learn. Depends on the assignment. Will be fine if the course is about AI, like ours. It's sad unless students clearly state that they used AI. Right. Okay, so let's move on to the next level, right? So it's like a scale from 100% AI, which is clearly totally 100% cheating. And then we have the no AI whatsoever at the end. Then we have lots and lots of gray area questions in between. So Ihab would be furious. If I could prove that it was written 100% by AI, would disqualify the work. I do my best to prevent them from cheating it by personalizing the tasks or giving in-class assignments when we teach frontally. Yes. So you feel upset, you feel furious.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that in terms of personal principles, I am against AI, but I am accepting the fact that we just have to try and use it and utilize it. So
yeah,
that's why I would be furious, but I'm trying my best to figure out how to get them to use it, but still giving in their own thoughts. And that sometimes it's infuriating, but I guess we just have to see.
Yeah, we're talking here about extreme, where a student doesn't even, activate their brain. They just copy paste and submit something that is AI produced, clearly produced. It reminds me sometimes of Google Translate, things that they just, for the English teachers, but also for EMI teachers, that students just can reflect our Moodle in whatever language they want. They can see our English locked for English Moodle. They actually view it in Hebrew or in Arabic, whatever they wish. And our sentences actually can appear in any other language, and they can respond. It's crazy, but that's another probably issue. Yeah, did anyone want to say something about it? No. Okay. So let's just move quickly through these levels, because I do want for you to have some time to reflect on the other questions for each of the problems here. So the next stage, so this was 100% AI. The next level of AI involvement in our teaching is AI writes content, but student edits it based on learning from class. Again, we have to think about a situation where a student actually takes some effort, and they got some material from class, and they know that the content that AI produced does not reflect what they learned in class, and they would do some editing. So what are your thoughts about this? Would this be acceptable? And then we will have a lot of questions about this situation, but how would you track it? How would you ask your students to be transparent about it? Do they need to be transparent about it? Like all those questions next, but for your initial thoughts about it. AI produces something for them, and then student edits it. What do you think? It's okay, that's enough. That's enough of a comment. You don't have to write a long comment. You can just, good formative assignment. That's learning too. Okay. We're moving along the scale, right? Okay. Shall I wait for another few seconds? Let's move on to the next one. Student rewrites AI-generated content with own improvement ideas. So basically what happens here, a student gets the initial drive from AI, but then rewrites completely almost everything, right? I don't know why it's so early on the scale of 12. What happens next then? Let's see, I have mentioned that you're against it in general, right? But slowly realizing that you cannot avoid them using it, and you can't track it, and you can't, AI proof anything. This is becoming acceptable. We should still accept it as general work in some institutions, at least. That's the new learning, maybe. Yeah. You don't seem so excited about it, but yeah, that's probably something that it will take us time to readjust. But the next generation of teachers, maybe for them it's going to be something that is obvious. What about this next idea where a student rewrites AI-generated content with their own improvement ideas? So it's already still like 100% initially AI-generated, but then student has to rewrite almost everything, I guess. That's okay. It's like some kind of scaffolding. That's a good critical thinking exercise that trains students to co-write with others, which is a realistic task. Very nice. We're at the third level, also acceptable. Okay, let's look at some other scenarios, how students can interact with with AI, probably for assessment, right? Since we focus on assessment today. So the next level could be AI generates multiple drafts. Student chooses best part of AI drafts. Okay, so it's kind of puzzle. There is a name for it, right? When we talk about plagiarism, there is a puzzle or stitch plagiarism, something like that. If we call
patch writing. I think.
Patch writing, yeah. Thank you. That reminded me of that for some reason. But yeah, what do you think about this strategy? When actually you don't just pick the first draft that comes out of AI, but you realize that there are some advantages, disadvantages in each of the generated outputs.
I think that this is good for a small exercise, maybe in our courses, but I fear that some students might use it to write complete seminars or theses or PhDs based on this. This, for me, that would be really crossing the line. But as far as our classes are concerned, like Epic, I think it's fine.
Okay. We will not probably go into the professional use scenarios because, of course, some of the authors, I mean, let's be honest, 100% transparent. Most of the writing this year has transformed like 180 degrees, not 360, 100. Like people use AI, period. Some of the people just are transparent and report their use of AI and some don't, but everyone does. The native speaker writers, book publishers, article writers, researchers, everyone uses AI, and those who don't, they just, I guess, miss out the opportunity because AI has been already used for at least a year extensively by authors. So back to the student-teacher situation and assessment scenario. Let's see what you think. It involves minimum effort, no critical thinking, no creativity, right? About the comparison of multiple drafts and using best parts from each of the drafts. Do you agree that there is no creativity? Well, I don't know, maybe no creativity, but is it minimum effort?
It's complicated. That's what I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it actually is good to, like, it's rather than creating something from the start, that sometimes creativity is to have something that exists and then you do with it, then you take it in your own way. That's also considered as creativity. But I think it really depends how, when, where, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's much easier because you're not staring at the blank screen, right? You have several drafts, and I do think there is a kind of thinking involved and critical analysis because
I do too.
Yeah, sorry.
I do too, that there is creativity in this.
Not creativity, but critical thinking, yes.
Oh, okay.
You are selecting best bits and pieces from different drafts. You kind of have to evaluate the whole thing and say, okay, this is not relevant to me, right? Or not relevant to the topic, or I don't personally relate to what's written, and I like this part, this sentence, and kind of choose this one. So there is kind of critical thinking involved. That's probably the reason why the author put this somewhere here and not just earlier, right? When you take a draft and just rewrite it in some way. The next
provided they justify their choices.
What do you mean?
If they can justify their choice and explain why they chose one over the other.
Yeah,
and it's not randomly selected.
No, yeah, exactly right. It's not supposed to be randomly selected because they choose best parts, right? Like the language probably infers some kind of critical evaluation of the parts to choose the best part, right? For your own writing, for your own assignment. The next step is actually student beginning with their own process of writing some bullet points, right? So there is no AI involved in that part where a student comes up with their own ideas. But then AI writes the draft, right? And then, maybe the word draft is a good one because you can then process it back to the human and then it can go on and on. So what do you think about this strategy? When you have some ideas in mind, give it to AI and get some answers. This should be the planning stage. There should be other follow-up activities. I'm moving on to the next one already. I do want you to have enough time to reflect on other things. So let me just go through others quickly because we have a lot of these and we have some breakout rooms and thinking to do. So the next one is AI guides student through writing process as a writing coach. Student creates content, and we actually had a very clear demonstration of that strategy, right? Lana presented us even a chatbot that can do that for the students. The next one would be student creates content until stuck, right? So they would be working on their own assignment by themselves, but then at the point where they need help, they will ask AI for help to get unstuck. So this is, you see, as long as it goes closer to the middle, so back to the big like picture, where is this? Here. So this this graph here. So the middle here is like half and half. It's half AI, half human, right? So this is 100% AI, this is 100% human, and in the middle, it's like the more in the middle, it's more half and half, and then it goes like more and more human and less AI. Right, so we had more AI, half and half, more human, 100% human in the end. So we're now reaching the middle part, I guess, here in the Padlet, where we are in the process where a student works on it, gets stuck, and then asks AI for help to get unstuck. Then we have another scenario where a student writes a draft, AI writes a draft, and then student adds best AI ideas to their own draft, right? Written completely by students. It's also kind of half and half. The next situation, maybe student gathers statistics, research via AI, but creates all content on their own. Okay. The next one would be student consults or the internet or AI for writing ideas, but creates everything on their own. The student writes all content but asks AI for feedback to improve, kind of thing. That's another interesting strategy. And the last one, again, which is 100% human, zero AI, is student does all work without any assistance from AI. We're going to take a very short break, maybe 10 minutes for, again, just to stand up and walk around, because I really want you to come back. And we're going to jump into the discussion of each one of these, or you will choose, right? We only have like less than an hour, so that's not enough time to actually answer all of the questions on all of the levels, which ideally I would love you to consider and write your like thinking about these situations. But think about your own context. If it's a math course or physics or whatever, so what could happen at this AI does all the work? So did they just copy? And even if your website is in Hebrew, they can just copy paste and get the same correct answer in Hebrew and then submit it as their own work. So what is your reaction to that? How to try and prevent it? How to reflect it in your syllabus? What needs to be revised in your syllabus in terms of the requirements, the rubrics, etc., and so on and so forth. Shall we take a very short break before we jump into this last part of you working hard now and discussing these interesting moments, and then wrapping it up before it's 2 p.m. Okay, guys? So 10 minutes will be okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. See you in 10 minutes. Okay, back to the champions. You are the champions to survive the 10 to 2 session on Zoom. Oh my gosh. I mean, I hope this last part is going to be something that is memorable, because from my experience, I mean, I love listening to fascinating talks, but then when it comes to actual, you know, hands-on implementation and writing and thinking and doing yourself, this is what you remember. And sometimes also networking, sometimes you meet someone and then it's really nice. So let's see whether Sammy and Eric are going to be back in a second. So let's jump in right into these tables that I created.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Okay, great. And I know it's tough, but now you will be talking, so maybe you will cheer up and a little get some energy flowing. Okay, and Eric is back. Excellent. So you see, we missed a little bit the energies from Kostas, but he's a vice rector in the Greek university. He got busy. He wanted to attend also here, but unfortunately. Anyways, you have 3 breakout rooms. We're gonna have 3 pairs of working together. So the same link that you have in the chat will lead you to the respective table that you need to open. So if you end up in breakout room number 1, you will go here and so on and so forth. So I will check on you. Now, just again, to show you, during the break, you know, you guys probably had a break. I thought about another column that I thought was necessary also to reflect on. And the column that I added here is now going to be, how likely will this happen? Like thinking about each of these situations, you see, let's predict, like, okay, the student will submit the AI work completely cheating. How likely is this going to happen to me and my students in my courses? Really, really rough estimates. You don't have to be accurate, don't have to be whatever. And also you have the first column of approximate percentage of AI involved in work. So I gave you like the first and the last one, but you can also maybe discuss within your breakout rooms. So let's say a student rewrites AI generated content with own improvement ideas. So what is the AI percentage involved? Is it 90% AI? Could be maybe, I don't know, 85 to 99% AI. Maybe a student changed 2-3 words and submitted. You see, like, think about percentages for each of these scenarios. Think about your own example situation in your course, in your classroom. How likely is this going to happen? So will you relate to this strategy? Will you introduce such a strategy to your students if you think it's valuable? Maybe just the percentage of how likely this will happen. I think cheating in my case will always continue to happen. It's just nothing that I can have control over. And again, percentages vary depending on the institution. Maybe, I don't know, 15% of students will always just try and cheat, and I don't know, but it's my rough estimate. Everyone will write their own number, your own perception of this behavior, right? How to show it in a syllabus, how to try and prevent it, and so on and so forth. And the student transparency. If you feel that some of this you're not ready to answer with your own thoughts, you can skip. You can try to cover all of these together. So decide the way you want to work, whether you want to go deep into each one of the levels and just answer all of the questions, or whether you want to cover all of the percentages here and then go one by one. So it's also up to you. I was in breakout room number 3, so let me just remove this because this is not the original template. So BR stands for breakout room. Okay, so this is how you know BR1 is breakout room number 1, breakout room number 2, number 3. So please confirm that you know where to go on Padlet to open the respective file. And if needed, I can also share this in the chat, and I will go into your rooms and listen to your discussions. But now I will open the breakout rooms. Any questions before we begin? This is exciting. You're gonna discuss this now. So we have 3 rooms, and this is gonna be okay. Okay, perfect. 1 second, I just needed to change the options. Do we need the time restriction? I'm gonna open it for, sorry, I'm sorry, I know you were inside. I want to just open it like this. Now it's ready. Okay, I'm so sorry. I saw that you were still talking to each other. Okay, I want to hear some maybe insights from each one of the rooms. So we have to unfortunately wrap it up very, very soon. First of all, who liked Lana's slides? If you want to have them, I'm sending this to you on the chat. You can just click on these shared slides and you will all receive all the information from this workshop, including all of the links, all of the slides and the summary PDF. I have also this beautiful PDF about things that you've learned today with key takeaways, with the links that were shared during the seminar. So everything is ready for you here with the prompts. So now jumping into the work that you've done. So we have breakout room number 1. I think this is the most productive room ever, Daniel and Ihab. Can you share with me, just each one of you, just one sentence takeaway out of this conversation? Did you learn something about yourselves, about your own attitude? Did you discover anything new, or like you can take?
I actually enjoyed Daniel said that the grade is based more on the process rather than the product, which is which will be challenging to implement, but it actually is. It is a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's the key takeaway also for everyone in all the podcasts, all the AI experts, discussing this. This is very important that we stop focusing on product so much and actually shift our attention to the process. And I think this is also about us educators in the future, when sometimes the product is not the issue, the knowledge is accessible everywhere. Like you can get the knowledge without us delivering it, but the actual human connection and the quality of the process becomes the key elements of education. And here we will never be replaced. So I'm very optimistic about AI never replacing us. Daniel, did you get any ideas or insights during this discussion?
I realized I was just muted, sorry. Just to kind of, I think, refine the idea that AI is not another place where I have to look for cheaters. There were cheaters all along. There will be cheaters in the future. This is just another avenue. And, someone who wants to use AI to cheat was probably going to use other methods to cheat. And I don't need to be worrying so much about them. Let them cheat themselves. We're trying to teach how to use something that we think is going to help them in the future. We know workplaces, we know academics, we know everybody's using AI. And if they want to shortcut, let them shortcut. And I'm not going to have AI be another headache or something like that, but another opportunity instead.
Right. So thank you very much for sharing this. So I guess one of the just really maybe even philosophical questions is not about we know that it's 1 or 0 cheating or not cheating, 0 and 100% just presenting AI work as your own is cheating. But then there is all this gray area where maybe some even serious students and even us academics, we wonder sometimes to what extent do we have to report how much we've used AI or not. And here, this answer that I copy pasted are actually from this article, from the link, right? So at some point, when you use AI to, I don't know, maybe towards the end, we would just consult for additional ideas or just do some kind of feedback for proofreading or maybe refining the language. like these days, we don't ask students to report on their use of spell checkers and Grammarly and all those autocorrection, you know, features that they have on their computers. So why should they even report the use of AI, right? So maybe there are some cases that being transparent, they don't even have to report having used the AI for some of our assignments, right? On the other side of the spectrum, you know, at the point of where they are use a lot of AI, maybe they have to report the amount of the amount of work that AI has done, and we actually have to focus again on the process, and maybe even instead of them submitting a product, they would have to submit the link to their interaction with AI, and this would be the assignment and not the actual, or maybe in addition to any kind of product that we expect from them, right? So the middle gray area is the most problematic, right? For example, when we talk about having us writing a draft and the AI writes a draft, so how do we report that? So it might depend on how much the student's work is influenced by AI drafts. So maybe you see, in some cases, the like citing of AI is encouraged, and sometimes you don't have to even mention. I don't know, it's something that every one of us, I guess, has to decide for ourselves, and maybe even based on each individual assignment. But then also we have to be clear with the students and tell them whether they have to report or not, right? And what are the consequences, what are the rubrics, what are our expectations, and so on. And I see that you also started working on the learning outcomes. I'm sorry, it started as a normal page, but then I had so many columns, I made the document pageless. I know that there is this feature in Word. So let's see, you added a new learning outcomes. So ask the student to explain the work in their own words, and students should be able to critically evaluate the writing process. Very, very interesting. So thank you very much. We also have the breakout room number 2. Yes, likely, and breakout room number 3. I remember there was something else. Group 2 ended up in a very interesting AI discussion, but it was all oral, right? Like discussion. I know, guys, you really had a very. Do you want to just share one key takeaway, each one of you, Eric and Pavel? You had a very interesting discussion, so give us one tip.
Yeah, I can share. I think we we both agreed that it's like the use of AI is totally fine, and it can be even encouraged if students are transparent about its use. If they say that we use it here and there, right? Because in this way you can even learn from your students, right? Because if you give some homework assignment and they tell you, okay, I use here AI, and that's what I got. I improved this part. And then, I mean, you can learn from your students, so that can actually be a good thing. But of course, if students, they don't follow academic integrity, and they don't say that they use AI, and so then this is the problem. But this is the classic cheating, right? I mean, it's when the student, they pretend that the piece of work is there, so why it's not. And I agree with Daniel, right, said that well, we cannot fight that. We cannot forbid ChatGPT or AI. It's already here, and it's probably will get stronger and stronger with the time. So I think what we need to work is on the academic integrity of our students and faculty as well.
Yeah. And from a very early age, right? Someone mentioned we need to begin with kindergarten.
Yeah. You cannot, exactly. Because especially like in Israel, some of my students, they're older than me. And of course, if they're not teach this, if no one teach them when they were kids, I will not be able to do this within half a year or whatever.
Yeah, Eric, your comment?
It goes for the same. We had an example of giving a task to a student group, and the students which invested a lot of time in the assignment, and they were also allowed to use AI. They got a good grade, and the ones which only use 60 minutes on a 4-week project, they failed. So you can see through it, is my, and I think we agreed on that. And I also have a short question to Ravid. Or you who can speak your Hebrew language, what does it say on the poster behind? Because I used my phone to sort of find out, and I'm not sure.
The light and the good will win. My campus where I work is in the Gaza envelope, where the community was badly. I don't know how, I don't have words in English or in Hebrew to describe what happened on October 7. So the guy whose quote is here was murdered. And so it became the Sapir News slogan. The light and the good will win.
Yeah, because my ChatGPT-4 on my cell phone, which I spoke to Paul about, it said Doctors for Human Rights. So then I guess I should be a bit, not knowing the language that was important for me. Then I can't trust it any, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Google Translator is way better in it, and it really reads Hebrew right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Thank you, Pavel. Okay, so Ravid and Samia, I also followed your discussion. We probably will stop here. It's 2 o'clock. I'm gonna stop the recording. I would like to